Okay, we do it live. We're live. We do it live.
Hmm.
Um, what
Okay,
come?
so
How do you do it? I don't. This was hard, dude. When you do it live, you sound stupid. It's like, what are you supposed to
you
say?
always you always sound stupid though. You just gotta say, gotta
Well,
say,
hey, well, this is our fourth annual.
all right, yeah.
This is our this is our fourth annual. That shit's not gonna last long.
What, the fourth annual? I doubt it. That's just gonna
No,
be
with
this till
any
fucking
amount of
episode.
annuals. After
Eh,
after like
episode
I give you
15 is gonna be. This is our 15th annual. Dre, it's our
right,
16th.
right.
Right. Our
Uh,
16th annual.
that's actually very generous. I was gonna get to 8. I was anything past 8. It's like so. This is our seventh, eighth. This is an annual. um,
Anyways, this is episode what, 4? I
this
forgot.
this is the fourth annual, I think.
Yeah,
And that's why I said we need it because I'll never remember. My
yeah,
memory's shit, but we're early enough that I can at least backtrack it. I can say,
yeah.
okay, so we did this, we did that, we did this, we did this. Okay, cool. It is the fourth.
But it's episode 2 of a series. This
It
is
is
X-Men.
episode 2 of a series, so it's the 24th. That's how math works, right?
Yes, that's exactly how math works.
Welcome to the 24th annual. The podcast that we talk about shit and we go on sidetracks and you listen for way too long. We have in store today the better of the two trilogies. I'm lying. That's not true at all. They're about equal because one of them is better for one reason, the other is better for other reasons, and they're all kind of
So,
just middle of the pack. Um, but they're middle of the pack for two different reasons. And when I say better, it's off directly the back of
which one does Days of Future Past count as?
that doesn't count. There's two trilogies, and Days of Future Past is not in. We're going to talk about them in this one, but it doesn't count. Um, essentially, the first trilogy is
It's
one,
the
two, three.
it's the fourth one in the after the first trilogy, but it's the second one in the third trilogy or
Right,
third quadrilogy.
right. I
It's a
mean, this
double
also
quadrilogy,
depends.
but it's only 7 movies.
This does depend though, because technically speaking, if you look at like most of Days of Future Past, it wasn't necessarily a hybrid. It was, but it wasn't. The story had nothing to do with them in the future, outside of the fact that they had to send them to the past. That
They
was
had
it.
to save the future.
Yeah, but they essentially weren't important to that movie. It was just a MacGuffin to get us back in the past again and continue the story of First Class,
They
which is
they
cool.
could have just did that without going to the past.
Right? They could have, but then there would have been no stakes.
True.
Well, what were the stakes?
They had to stop the Sentinel program from ever
Oh,
being like
I remember
constructed.
the
Whenever
stakes.
what? Yeah,
Good.
whenever Raven was gonna kill the Trask.
Right.
They would have got her blood. It would have made the government actually want to invest into the Sentinel program because they could tell that they were dangerous and stuff.
Right. Well,
So
no, that is not even a part of the stakes I was thinking of because objectively, those stakes aren't even actually important because very technically, it was a prequel to the first movie or like the first shit, if that makes sense.
well, first shit,
Um,
the first trilogy.
yeah, it was a
Yes,
prequel to the first trilogy, so really, it wasn't even like the stakes weren't important. They just needed they needed a reboot essentially. Is the way
you
I
talking
see
about
it.
meta? You talking about meta, or you talking about the actual story?
Um, both. The actual story was a meta thing to get a reboot to take the series in a different direction because they were piloting
Yeah,
way towards the same shit. They needed new movies. It was like fuck, we can't make any new movies. We did the prequel, and that prequel could have been standalone. I think overall, First Class could have been one and done.
it definitely was, but because of how
Um,
the popularity of First Class, they kind of wanted to go back and just stay over there,
right, and that's what I
and
mean. So
and
it's like
retcon
we need
everything,
more
and then
money.
just
Need
yeah,
we need more actors.
they
We need
wanted to they wanted to retcon everything and just go from there.
right. So that's
So
why I say technically there weren't stakes and they didn't need to be there. But then I was like, why? Why did I feel like that? I was like, oh, that was a prequel. I forgot that that was a prequel.
I mean, the
Uh,
first one already retconned stuff anyways. Professor X was walking around in Jean's backstory with him and whenever him and Magneto first visited Jean in
oh
the third
yeah,
movie.
right,
But he became crippled at the beginning of the first, or at the end of the first class
right.
when he hadn't even met Jean yet. So like it was already a bunch of continuity issues anyways.
Right. No, that works. So now I'm cool with that, and that's why I say I think overall, if it would have just been like a brand new shit, I would have been okay. So, but I don't think it was done bad or done poorly. But overall, I think what we can look at this is where I was going with that is that I think at this point, if we look at it kind of in that light, it was essentially one, two, and three of a rebooted trilogy, and then Dark Phoenix was just a terrible fourth that never needed to happen that they kind of probably forced because they were going to lose the rights to the shit soon enough.
No, they weren't. They were making them consistently enough. They weren't going to lose the rights for them.
I mean, I thought they were losing them anyway. Like they were already in talks that we're gonna buy our shit back
Oh yeah,
regardless.
but it was already being made before that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, definitely didn't need to have a fourth one. And I think I don't know. I just want to erase my memory of that fourth one, to be honest. So
I think it was that bad. I thought it was whatever.
I thought it was bad.
I thought it was
I thought it
whatever,
it was
honestly.
just I don't know. It wasn't unwatchable. So when I say bad, I think at minimum I'd still give it a 5, but
I give
it
it better 5.
it just felt bad. Like that's why I say it felt bad. And I think in the reason I say it honestly, and I want to give it lower because objectively it's about a 5. Personally, I'd give it a 3. Um, because just of what it means for the first and second trilogies and what it means and how they did the characters and all that shit, just everything about it just makes everything else feel
I just
better.
kind of want to go down a little bit. I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I don't think I ever want to watch it again.
No, me neither, not at all. And I think back to so much parts of it, I'm like, that sucked. It was just bad. And that's the thing is, I give X-Men 3 like a 6, maybe a 7, probably a 7. Let's be honest, but not an objective
Wouldn't give
7.
it a 7.
A 7 for
Give it a
fun.
5.
I give it a 6 because I think it was pretty solid. I can't see any glaring things wrong with it. They did most characters pretty well. I'm still mad about fucking Spike. That's
They
hashtag
put
not my
Beast in,
Spike.
which almost gave it a fucking 6. Because Beast was awesome. I don't think Beast was in the second one. I can't remember
No.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
but so I think yeah, they did a lot of stuff right. I think overall I give it a 6 because it's still an X-Men movie. So some of the things that I think are like a little biased, like, but they did cool X-Men stuff. Well, that's okay. That can be taken into the rankings of that movie to give it a 6. If you take all the X-Men stuff out and try and look air quotes super objectively about it, then maybe filmmaking wise it'd be closer to a 5. But I think it's still an X-Men movie, so you have to give it some criteria for that, and they did a lot of cool X-Men stuff. So I'd give it like a 6. I want to give it a 7 for like personal shit because it was super exciting, but
Yeah.
that's not fair. So back to the shit. I think my personal rating for that one, yeah, would be like a 3 or 4, maybe closer to a 3 to be honest, just because of after watching what they did in X3, that shit was just fucking worse. It was like strictly worse. And then after watching the second trilogy, it was strictly worse for what they did with all those characters. And it was just like, it just felt bad on all fronts. It was almost an affront to every single one that came before it. It was just fucking terrible. And then objectively, movie speaking, the bad guys were fucking awful. They were super uninteresting. Jean's entire story was super uninteresting. So much of it was so bad. But I watched it and didn't think it was unwatchable. Like, I left the movie thinking, okay, I mean, that was cool. It had moments. It wasn't very good, but it wasn't so bad. And that's why I say I think I have to stick objectively around a 5. But the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, ugh. So it's definitely it's hard to say. And now we're jumping out of order too, and that's the question I wanted before we got too off
Okay.
track. We haven't even
Yeah.
started, and we're already on the fourth one. Couldn't even get a proper intro done before we just fly off on tangents. um,
All right.
but so short story long, number one. If we're calling it that, yeah, number one.
Yep.
Fucking great. I thought it was great. I think everyone did a phenomenal job. And let's just get this out of the way for all of the trilogies. It's the Fassbender trilogy. He is those movies. I don't give a fuck. Charles did really good though.
He's in 4 movies.
Yeah. But they just
It's a
he didn't even
quadrilogy.
he didn't even need to be in the fourth one.
100%. I was actually going
Like
to talk to you about that one. Well, keep going.
right. Well, yeah, we'll go. So we'll get there. Good. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to unpack here. But yeah, in the first one, fucking, it was phenomenal. All the actors I think did a great job. All the characters were compelling. The drama, the action.
All of the characters are compelling.
I think so. Yeah. Even the ones I didn't like.
Okay,
Like what's her name? Who could fly? The little butterfly chick.
yeah.
I didn't like her.
You good?
I didn't
Oh,
like her as a character. I was
okay.
like, I was like,
Okay.
and that's what's weird. So it's like, what do you mean? You just said they were compelling. That doesn't mean I have to like them.
I don't think she was compelling at all.
It was just the fact that she brought, what do you call it? I don't know. No, maybe compelling is not the right word. That is definitely not the right word. Let me reverse. Compelling is not the right word, but good, appropriate.
Made sense.
Yeah, there you go. Made sense. I liked the character in the sense that yeah, not all mutants are fucking superheroes. They're regular people.
Well, clearly, because a lot of them fight, are just like want normal lives and shit, right?
Right, right.
Uh,
But when you see
like
a
Rogue,
stripper show
we saw
up,
Rogue in the first trilogy. She was just wanted to go back to being normal.
right, that's true. But she ended up being a hero and being involved with hero things.
Yeah.
And that's usually how they end up. All mutants, I think, in X Men are regular people, and they try and give you this dramatic
Well, she got the
backstory.
cure at the end of the third one. If you
Huh,
watched that version, because there were two versions of the third one.
what's happened?
Rogue, she got the cure at the end of the third one.
Oh, got you, got you. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that was like, maybe yeah. That's,
Well, those
I
two
remember.
versions. When you start, when you if you, I don't know if the theatrical version, but if you start up the DVD, you can either watch the Brotherhood of Mutants version, or you can watch the X-Men version. I said, what the fuck is the
Yeah,
difference?
that's
And
really cool.
Me and Kane watched them like I don't know 3 or 4 times. We're like, so she just gets the cure in this one. That's it. That's the only difference.
That's
And in
cool.
this
I
one, she
like that
doesn't
though.
take it. Yeah, it's like it just changes one scene. It's the one where she runs into Bobby, and I think she doesn't have her glove on whenever she gets the cure. But then
Right.
the other one, she still has her glove on. She couldn't go through with it.
That's cool. Yeah, check this out. And actually, in short story tangent, um,
Yeah,
do you think that if they took that even farther and did it more prevalently in new movies, that you'd like it or not like it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know how. I would just like, oh, there's two different versions of this movie. Awesome, but it wasn't actually two different versions. It was just one
Right,
different
right. That
scene.
was
Which
done poorly.
that scene would have been very like impactful for the next couple movies. And I don't know if you saw that they have a rogue cut of Days of Future Past, uh,
Oh,
where she didn't get the cure, so she has powers. Um, she
right,
just like when Kitty gets cut. Well, we will talk about Days of Future Past. So,
right, right.
yeah, when Kitty gets cut, she shows up, takes Kitty's power, and does her job while she goes and gets healed.
That's
That's
cool.
what, that's about it. That's the only difference.
Right. Well, these are
Uh,
big production things too. I don't think it lends itself well to a trilogy, or in this case, four movies.
quadrology.
Or yeah, in this, well, actually, the first one was a trilogy, so I guess that counts.
I mean, Days of Future Past is a sequel to that.
Technically, maybe you're right. Yeah, yeah. It was a prequel, but even though it was essentially it was like a retcon
It's a
prequel,
sequel. It's in the
sequel,
future.
sequel,
It's a
prequel,
sequel
retcon.
prequel.
I don't know what it is. It's hard to say. We'll figure it out. I'll make some stupid joke eventually, and I'll have a name for it.
It's a C prequel.
It's a sub prequel. You gotta put retcon in there. So we gotta find sequel, prequel, retcon. We gotta find a combination of those. That sounds really dumb. Um,
It's a C prequel.
Suprequon?
I don't know.
Suprequon. I like that. It's a Suprequon. Supricon. Sorry. Seprecon. It's a Seprecon. It's a Decepticon.
The sequel pre
It's a
I don't know.
Seprecon. Okay, we're gonna call
It's
it
a
that.
Seprecon. All right, Seprecon.
It's a Seprecon. It's so stupid. But yeah, no. For single movies, right? For singular
Yeah.
movies, I think it'd be kind of interesting, but it might fall really flat, right? I think it'd be really cool in the sense that if you think about like certain movies where it's like, man, what if they would have done this? Or like you have a character who has a moral ambiguous choice towards the beginning of the movie. They always come towards the end because they want them to be impactful. But find a way to make a character interesting enough and well developed enough in the first 30 minutes to give them a choice that has impact and that is meaningful, that can diverge the plot in two directions, and then give two takes on the movie. I think that'd be really cool. It doesn't lend itself to a theatrical release, which is kind of bad, but we live in a modern era where things go straight to streaming services.
Have you seen Bandersnatch?
No.
Yeah, you have. We watched it.
Did we?
Uh, yeah, the Black Mirror movie where we got to choose his decisions for him.
Yeah, that shit was meta as fuck. It freaked me out, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, you
Uh,
press a button? Like, you do that?
yeah.
That shit kind of fucked with me. I wasn't ready, dude. Um, but yeah, like something like that. Only it's like two versions. So essentially, you don't get to pick, but you get to pick which one you want to watch. And like you said,
I
it was
got
the
you.
Brotherhood version or the X-Men version. I kind of like that. And then give two takes on like what the story could become if either side got certain power or something. Not in representation of X-Men, but in the powers that are conflicting in this ideal new adaptation of this philosophy of movie storytelling. Movie telling. I don't know. I was gonna say movie telling, but it sounded weird.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Movie telling does
if
sound
movie
weird.
telling,
Storytelling is.
right? It's telling stories through movies. Uh, but it'd
All
be
right.
cool. I think overall the idea seems really fucking cool, but it's gonna also require really good writing because oftentimes writing is to tell a message. And almost I think you could take two writers That
Yeah.
would make it pretty good. I think it would make it even better almost. Find two writers and say find one who writes dark stories and find one who writes more happy hero stories or something. Find different styles and tell them the bad guy gets the power, and then this one the good guy gets the power, but they fight the bad guys, whatever, and give them a premise, but then watch the stories unfold with an ambiguous ending. And even if both
Yeah.
writers come to a similar conclusion, that's okay. Or if they come to a vastly different conclusion, they kill off different characters or whatever. But it makes sure it's tight enough that it's the same movie ish. That'd be fucking dope. That'd be actually super fucking dope.
Like that.
I'm a-okay with that. But I think but you gotta do a single standalone. I don't think it lends itself well to number one, a theatrical release, and number two, a fucking release. What do you call it? Of like, what do you call it? Triples, like trilogies, multiple movies. It's gonna be too hard to keep up the shit over the course of many movies because then you just have two different series. It's not. It wouldn't work. And there was a third one I had about the viewers. There was it was like, I wish I could remember it. That's why these tangents are so important. I do have that bad of memory sometimes. But the viewers themselves, I think, might have an issue because a casual viewer is not going to want to watch a movie twice
Yeah.
unless if it's very wildly different. And if it's too wildly different, the fundamental thing here is wasted. And then you're going to have people who talk about the correct version. And maybe that's a good thing. But there's going to be a lot of assholes who say, no, this is the right version. This is the correct version. Those characters would never do that. That would never happen. Because, you know, all storytelling has at least some form of contrived, oh, this happened.
Yeah.
Somebody tripped or you know what I mean? So it's like there's always going to be this issue and it's going to maybe leave a negative taste in people's mouths. But I don't even believe that. I think I've already convinced myself that if you feel that way, screw off. This style of media is not for you. But I think it is a style of media that could be explored to great success.
Yeah. It would
But,
definitely have to be like streaming service movie, but yeah.
Right. Okay, but yeah, so side story over. Back to they could have done that, they didn't, but that's kind of cool. But yeah, so the X-Men, what's her name? She's very believable, very likable as a character in a way. Not likable, that's not the right word. She's appropriate because it's like, yeah, we just found a stripper and we want her to join this army. She's not a fucking freedom fighter. She just wants to get paid. Like she just wants a life. And when dudes in suits come saying we got this, you know, institution and all this, pretty much what would seem like lots of money and shit, come with us, we can take care of you. Hell yeah, it's better than stripping. Shit, I'll make money. And then she ends up being on this thing. It's like, well, that's not necessarily what I came here for. I don't want to put my life on the line and be a hero. Even though she did have those fun times while doing it, they hadn't experienced danger at that point, though, which is part of the whole contention I think I like about when Magneto said that, or was it Magneto? Someone who was shutting it down? Charles. I think Charles was the one shutting it down. He was like, no, we can't put these kids in that kind of danger. We have to shut it down. And it was like, he was like, they're already in danger. They've already seen the danger. You can't take that shit away now. They lost their home and everything. Now they have to know what real life is like. Get fucked. Here you go. And then when she saw it towards the end and decided to join the bad guys, it was like, well, yeah, it makes sense. They were not only shown to be more powerful, but they were shown that, like, she was shown, like, yo, you're going to get wrecked if you stay on this side. Like, we're getting beat up. The people just tried to hit us with nukes. I'm going with the people who, like, you know, seem a little bit safer in a way, because Charles doesn't necessarily seem like a safe side to pick.
Yeah.
Which is the whole choice. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say he was like he's way too like hesitant to do anything really decisive.
Right. And he's the morally correct but air quotes incorrect choice. And that's always what makes him and Magneto.
Yeah, you're right. He's the most morally correct.
Right, and that's what makes him interesting. Him and Magneto too, because they're both like, Magneto's the safe bet. He's the safe option. He's the air quotes right option if you want to think objectively.
He's the path that people have taken for years. Like if you don't want them to be a threat anymore, you kill them. Right. That's what you do. So Magneto's is the one that tried and true.
Yeah, it's old reliable.
Yeah.
Charles is trying to break ground with ground that's never been broken. That honestly keeps in history. We have so many evidence of.
Well, I mean, if you look at different tribes that came to war with each other and then just had like decided to stop fighting, his has been tested too. So it's not like it's revolutionary.
To what scale and to what degree of threat? I think is the issue, because Magneto has a lot of really good points. When you make tribe friendly, it's like, oh, cool, they benefit us now.
Yeah.
There's no threat. It's all good, and essentially, it's like, well, maybe they try and steal our women sometimes. When we kind of commingle, we can take some of their women. We're now almost one unit, so there is no threat. We became one unit. Mutants are not ever going to be one unit. They're dangerous as fuck. They can kill half of humanity at a will, which is humans are always going to be terrified of. There's always a threat. There's never not going to be a disparity between the two groups.
Mhm.
And disparity is what leads to hate, to violence, to war. Look at even income disparity. People who are poor hate rich people, and people
Yeah,
who are
but
rich people
they don't
sometimes hate
fucking.
poor people.
But poor
Um,
people just fight amongst each other, so it's not like that. That's actually a good example.
but they
They
still
usually
hate.
don't.
I guess
They
maybe you're
hate the
right. They're
rich,
just
but they
maybe they're
don't do
predispositioned to
anything.
violence.
Yeah,
That's fair. But they do have a reason in their eyes to hate rich people because they feel
yeah,
oppressed. And
yeah,
that's the same thing. Humans are going to find a reason to hate mutants because they feel secretly oppressed, or less than, or threatened in some way. I think you could argue that it's never going to be a long-standing piece as long as there's insecurities, and to say that you can remove insecurities from humankind is fucking not true. Um, but
yeah.
I like the way that Rogue put it. I think she put it there. Not Rogue. It was Mystique. One of them put it. Fuck. Beast. It was in the fourth movie. I think it was like, yeah, expect the best, prepare for the worst. And Charles technically did do that, but he never really let on like that was the case. Like he did. I think he secretly was doing that. Like we're gonna have a fucking X-Men army that we can kill all the
Yeah,
humans if we
yeah.
need to.
He said it at the end of one of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he said if let them come, they'll
Right.
see.
I pray for the fool who comes to my school looking for trouble.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Right. So I think secretly he kind of knows, but there's plenty of times where he does
He
get
knows
himself
there's
into
the
hot water.
possibility of it happening, but he doesn't want to uh go straight to that. That's the main answer.
Right. 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 Which is I kind of respect it. But we're now I'm lost my own train of thought. Characters, yeah, characters. So she sided with the essentially the safe bet,
Yeah,
which is cool, makes sense. But then she ends up dead. Because they couldn't protect her, is the bad part. So like and then it just didn't work. Like so the it kind of shows you like the sad part of that, where it didn't work. And actually, one thing I think is kind of funny.
when did it
That's
go? Hold on.
her, Azazel, and like two others died to strike her.
Oh, you're my angel. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, we're talking about
Um,
angel.
And so one thing I did like though, actually it's kind of I remembered this and I didn't want to forget this point, was when I was talking about what Charles said at the end of this shit exploding. We can't let them be around this danger no more. And then Magneto's like, it's too fucking late now. That whole scene. If you look at number 4, which I thought was pretty interesting, he's the first one like, yeah, go on dangerous missions. And I keep calling her Rogue, fucking strong female lead. um, Mystique was like,
Mystique.
no, you keep sending them on more and more dangerous missions and shit and all this other stuff, and she's not like okay with it, which is funny. I thought it was like a stark difference from where he was at the end or at the beginning of the first movie or midway through the
Yeah,
first movie.
yeah,
I wasn't really going anywhere with that point, but I did think that it was in there, so maybe they were going somewhere with that. I don't think it means anything to the overarching shit, but it was
yeah,
something that they did have lines for, so maybe they were trying to make that work. Because I always like to give credit where I think they tried something, and that could have been something they were trying. But yeah, she was good. So back to the characters, and I like almost all the characters because they were pretty good. The FBI lady was cool. I think she was a little too action hero, and for me, because I mean, but then she was an undercover lady, so maybe I don't know. It felt like she's probably not doing these crazy dangerous things on a daily basis. She's probably just doing a lot of observe and report and shit like that.
yep.
But then she was like full action hero at times. But that's not a bad thing. I think it's not like so unbelievable for the character. But that's like a small
Especially
thing.
fine.
I'm trying to find flaws. I didn't even think that when I watched the movie, to be honest. I always liked her character. But if I'm going to talk about something objectively, I should try and find, the characters, find things I didn't like about characters that could be seen as a drawback. But I think overall, every character in that movie was pretty good to amazing. Um, with the high end being Fassbender and Charles. Those two are obviously definitely the two peas in the pod that kind of made that movie really good.
I'll say I don't really care for Banshee. Um,
Banshee, no,
just,
that's fair. Um, I think he
um,
didn't get enough payoff for his character. I like that he
they
was
just
this
wanted a
timid
guy
guy.
with flight powers on the good side, for that final scene.
Right, that makes sense. He could have got a little more. I
And
thought he
then
was
named
cool
her
with
Angel for some reason when there's already an Angel in X-Men and he's in the original trilogy. Well, he's not in the original trilogy. He's in the Last Stand
right,
only, I think. Yeah.
right.
So yeah.
I liked
But now I
Havoc
have
a
two.
lot. He was cool, just
Yeah.
because how he played off the other characters. I think if he wasn't there, Banshee feels a lot worse.
Yeah.
Because he was like when he pushed him off the fucking thing, he was like, "Yeah, I believe in you" or something. He was, "Oops," just pushed that fucker off. Or no, was it Magneto who pushed
That's
him?
Magneto who pushed him off.
Okay, never mind, never mind. I guess it was just him fucking with Beast.
Yeah,
But I liked it. I like his dynamic because he was also the problem child, and I really liked that scene when it was like everyone's gonna go join the bad guys, and I was like, oh well, he's gonna be the first one to go, and he wasn't, and he actually played with fucking what's his name to try and sneak in and stop them. I thought that
yeah,
was cool. Darwin.
Darwin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Darwin's cool. I was surprised. I didn't even know that was Darwin because I
Yeah,
just when I watched the movie, I didn't really know Darwin like that. So on my rewatch, I was like, "Oh shit, that's fucking Darwin. He can survive anything and do all this shit." 'Cause he was very important into the story for after House of M.
yeah,
He plays a pretty big role, not a huge role, but he plays a role in some of the stories after that. Is where I
yeah, he
was
does.
familiar with him after that. And I was like,
He,
"Oh shit, it's that guy."
they didn't want to waste any special effects on him to make him look like Darwin. So,
Right.
uh, yeah,
Um, but yeah, no. So I
'cause-
thought he was kind of cool. It was cool that he was there. Once I knew who the character was, I was like, oh, that's cool. It sucks he didn't get things,
yeah,
but it was cool that he was there. But yeah, him and Havoc and shit, trying to stay with the good guys and stuff, and like their interactions and like all the kids and stuff, having a little party and stuff. Like I thought that was a cool moment too.
I
I
did like
really
that.
enjoyed that
When they had
moment
the
when they
party.
crashed the
Yeah,
party. When Charles comes
yeah,
by and he's like, "I expected better of you." That shit kind of got me because that's the kind of feeling I remember when I was a kid. Of like, dude, we literally have been doing our training. We're doing this. We're doing everything. We're not breaking nothing. I think they had broke a couple things. They did completely destroy the courtyard. I forgot. um, so that's a problem. They did just fuck up a lot of shit. But other than that, for the most part, I think it was mostly harmless fun.
I
Um,
think it made me think of the in Dark Phoenix
mhm.
when they're all having when the teenagers are all having a fucking bonfire and drinking and shit.
Right.
And then they're like, let them have their fun. It reminded me of that, or it reminded me of First Class. Uh,
When they didn't
that
let them
moment
have their fun.
exactly.
I see. Ooh. And Mystique was a part of it. No
Yeah,
shit. Good
yeah.
writing. Maybe not. Maybe it's just they got lucky with that one. They didn't plan it. But either way, I'm gonna call it good writing.
I'd like to think they planned that one.
Right. 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 Right.
I didn't
No,
plan
that's
it
cool.
ahead of time, but when they were writing Dark Phoenix, they were like, "Ooh, this would be a really cool scene for
Right.
a callback for whenever we had the party in First Class."
Right. But they kept track of them though, which is kind of cool. They had the cameras. They had people looking. They were ready if something did go wrong, which was
Yeah,
I thought really nice. But yeah. So I think overall, all the characters in that thing were either good enough or pretty good to just great, which is that's a good thing for a movie. When you can't look at a character and be like, oh, they were terrible. I wish they weren't in the movie. I think that's a good sign for a movie's health because I'd give that movie shit pretty high marks. I'd give that shit like a fucking solid 8, if not 8.5. Maybe 8.5 is pushing it, but
I'd give it an 8.
solid 8. Cause yeah, fucking, and they had just good fucking. Maybe it's not fair, but they had fucking Kevin Bacon. Even if you're not a Kevin Bacon fan, he just carries so much when he's on screen. Like he did a phenomenal job for that character.
The thing about Emma Frost, I thought was kind of lame. She didn't really have that much
Yeah,
lines. I didn't really get a good sense of her personality,
fair
but
enough.
uh,
She was just for the movie. She was tits and ass, and it
she
worked.
was his
Um,
she was his telepath because he needed one to counter Charles, and she
right,
she was part of the Hellfire Club, so I guess that's fine. Uh,
right. I think she was fine overall for the movie's sake. But
yeah,
if you want to take her character from like the comics' sake and other stories' sake,
yeah,
it definitely didn't get justice. But I don't always bring that into account. Um,
yeah. I would say the villains' characters didn't really have character. They were just like they were character caricatures. They just had kind of like a single trait, and that was all.
yo,
But
tell
they
me you don't
weren't
think
bad.
it was a James Bond. I feel like he was a James Bond bad guy, Kevin Bacon.
Definitely, yeah, yeah.
He was
He
under
was
the
definitely.
sub and everything with like his evil
Yeah.
plans.
There's fucking nice suite inside of the fucking submarine. There's like nice
Right,
chairs and fucking table with a cigar.
right. No,
With
he's
this
literally a James Bond bad guy, and I fucking love it.
it was funny.
And
That was
because
great.
it was Kevin Bacon too, it felt great. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's like, maybe he wasn't a good X-Men bad guy,
I thought he was fine. I thought he was fine.
but I just loved it
I
so
was
much.
because I liked he was the only one of the villains that I felt was I don't know good. Like I was like ooh he's like compelling. But out of the good guys, I would say it was just Banshee that I found boring, and then out of the bad guys, they all were kind of boring, but they looked cool and they had interesting traits.
Right, right. And he had all that stuff with
Also, so I
Magneto.
like Azazel. So
Um,
they actually put Azazel and all that stuff. He looked cool.
yeah, he did. He
Um,
looked cool as fuck. The red smoke and everything. Oh yeah.
yeah,
I thought it was cool that he had scars and shit too. I
yeah,
know like that's a weird thing to say, but when you see that, it made it, I don't know, feel appropriate. Like that motherfucker had gotten fucked up from somebody. You could say, well, he probably got fucked up when he was doing bad guy stuff. But I'd
Yeah,
like to think in my headcanon that he got fucked up prior and then became a bad guy because of that.
yeah,
And
maybe.
even if he was just doing it from bad guy stuff, it was just really cool to see. It was really cool to see him actually be fucked up from those things. And it's just those subtle things sometimes that every now and again I notice because I'm pretty dumb and don't normally notice it. But it made his character really interesting to me because I was like, that motherfucker's seen some shit. Um, and it was just cool because it kind of like you didn't. It was like a show don't tell thing. It was like this motherfucker's very experienced. He looked a little bit older based on his facial features, so it was like he's old,
Hmm.
he's experienced, and he's doing all this shit. It made him a little bit compelling in a way. It's like, oh shit, I want to know more about this guy or whatever. So it was kind of cool. But fuck, who else? Oh yeah, Magneto's stuff with Magneto
Magneto's
and
amazing. He's fucking carried the guy.
Jesus, yes he did. Don't even get me started.
That
Don't even get
scene,
me fucking
the
started.
scene in the bar is just fucking 10 out of 10.
I love this
That's
shit.
a,
Any scene he's in, fucking. But yeah, his stuff with Magneto or his stuff with Kevin Bacon. I don't.
yeah.
I don't necessarily think it was necessary, but it was. I don't know how to say that. Like
Bring Magneto into the story, yeah.
right. It
Because
was
it,
necessary for Magneto to be involved with everything they were doing.
yeah.
But I think if you didn't, like, if Magneto just joined their ragtag group, if it wasn't the guy who tortured him as a kid, but it was still a bad guy who fucked him over in some way,
Mm.
it would have been just as good. Um, I guess is what I mean. It's like the him being the guy who tortured him as a kid, or the guy who killed his mom. I don't think that was necessary in a way, but then I don't know. It's hard to say because I don't think about those ties when I think about the scenes with him in it. But maybe that's because it was just so well done. I don't know. I get maybe it is. Maybe because he did such a fucking phenomenal job acting, I didn't have to know why. Like no shit. I think because Fassbender did such a fucking amazing job acting that if you told him, yeah, he kicked his dog, please, just kill this fucker. How dare he? Like just the emotion and everything that he did in every one of his scenes was so fucking compelling that I think I just forgot sometimes why he was there, and I didn't care why he was there. I just knew that I believed in it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not fair for me to say that he didn't need to be tied to him in that way. Um,
I
but
don't know. I liked his him tracking down where Kevin Bacon's character was Shaw.
oh, that
Like
was cool.
yeah, so and then him and like it was going back and like it gave the movie a really good flow of going back and forth between Charles and um um Magneto.
Right?
Just going because it was like it showed Charles as a kid, right? Wait, no, the movie opened up in Germany, right?
Yeah.
In
It
yeah,
was Magneto first.
in the camp, yeah, Magneto as a kid, and then it cut to Charles and Mystique as a kid,
Yep.
and then it cut back to Char and then it showed
College.
college, yeah. So it had really good
You're
back and
right.
forth.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. And it was a very good
it made a
intro
really
for
good
both those
pacing.
characters.
Yeah,
You know what's funny though? I think another thing that gives me this whole James Bond feel was him going to the gold place with the French guy. That shit
yeah,
had James Bond written all over it. Not in the sense maybe that he would be sort of a Bond character. He walks in, he's smooth and suave, fucking has the briefcase and shit, gets the information and leaves. It definitely didn't feel like a superhero movie. Those a lot of the scenes in that movie felt
yeah,
like just a traditional action film, which is not taken away from them. But it is funny seeing a lot of the themes that they took. But I really appreciate how they wove them into the superhero story.
yeah,
And I think more things should do that well. If I'm gonna jump out on a limb here, I don't have a lot of evidence. I didn't think about this thought all the way through, so I'm trying to work it out here through a discussion. I think the idea of that movie to me had so many fucking like James Bond style action shit all throughout, but they wove it so beautifully with the mutant shit that it always felt really good. Whereas a lot of other hero movies don't have a particular style or proven theme, so they kind of fumble about, or they introduce themes that are more stereotype action movie or drama movie or whatever that don't mesh well with the hero themes that are going on, and it doesn't fit. So the idea that maybe you should not say copy things, but take this template of like this style or this thing, and then weave it into the storytelling. Or maybe it's just really well done. Maybe it doesn't have to necessarily do this, but maybe it just looks like they did that because it was done so well. And other hero movies, especially back in those generations, was just fumbling about in a way.
Yeah.
Like when I think
Well,
about, for
see, the
example,
the
sorry.
earlier the earlier superhero movies were all very campy because they were like, oh, it's for kids. It can be goofy. It can be slapstick and all this other stuff that doesn't. They didn't think they had to make anything compelling because they were like, oh, this is for kids. We're gonna make toys and all this. We're just gonna make a bunch of costumes, a bunch of gadgets, a bunch of uh vehicles and stuff that we can sell as merchandise.
Right.
But now they're actually making them with good stories because a lot of people who are making them now are people who grew up either with those movies or the shows or the comics and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think that overall, maybe you're right. Maybe that's because it was just well written, that they weren't going for like a James Bond style theme, but it just was so well written. Because it's also the time frame matters. The time frame
Yeah.
is indicative of that style.
Yeah.
So maybe the time frame is what led itself to me thinking those things, and because they did so well, just doing the themes and the timing and everything, that's just made it was just well done. So maybe you're right. And the other ones just aren't as well done, so I can't identify a theme or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if that's entirely true because I can't identify a theme for like Marvel movies outside of it's a Marvel. They kind of developed their own air quotes theme,
I
but
mean, as a franchise, it doesn't have a really theme, but a lot of the movies do have a theme you can see on their own or all together. If like all the Captain America movies together have kind of a theme, a running theme.
what do we finish? There's things to go. We'll jump back to the first one, but I don't want to leave this theme shit aside. Moving to the next ones because it's very important. That I've heard some criticisms about the movies that there were 10-year gaps in between them,
Yeah.
and that was supposed to be on purpose. Um, and I think that's a bad idea, and they executed it poorly. Number one, you
Really?
shouldn't do that, but number two, the fact that you did do that, you did execute it poorly. um, and I just
Uh,
I overlooked that entirely.
what do you mean you overlooked that entirely?
Like I don't like, for example, in the newest one, the fourth one, it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is 2000 because it went from 70, 80s,
I thought it
90,
was the 90s.
2000. Maybe it was 90, I don't know. But it was so 60s, yeah, 60, 70, 80, 90. Is this is the 90s. I didn't notice or care at all. It was essentially right after the previous one. It was they went and picked up Jean and them. They went and fought Apocalypse. 6 months later, here we are. That was where
Almost.
that was in my head canon, and they did nothing to disprove that.
They do something. They do like a scene or something in each one, telling you what era they're in. Like
I
in
see.
Apocalypse, they went and saw the third, uh, what was it? Star Wars movie. So they
Oh
it
yeah, I
established we're in
remember
the
that.
80s.
Right,
Yeah, the early 80s, and
right,
then
right. Obviously, they had the whole shit, and when
they
Wolverine woke
mentioned
up,
the
he was in a
years. They
waterbed.
constantly mention the years. They constantly mention, oh, that was 10 years ago. Like you'll see like in the movie they'll show the news and it'll be like a scene from the previous movie. It says this 10-year anniversary of this happening.
I
Um,
see.
uh,
Which I was cool with for the first three. Um, and I think the first three do
you think
time
it should have just
periods
stopped doing time jumps after the third one, after
right, because the
Apocalypse?
first three are fine. Like I loved the shit in the '60s. I thought it was cool, very thematic. They played it up really well. They had the Nixon shit going on. It was cool. And then in the next one, it was like a little bit later. Things were different. Like you said, the whole '80s thing. And look at Cyclops wearing his
70s.
shades. Cyclops' shades are fucking hilarious about how easily he fit in with the '80s. He looked like he could be from the '80s with the even with the visor, not even the shades. I
Yeah.
thought it was cool. So yeah, overall, I think that the time thing didn't really catch me or didn't feel bad in a way for the first three, but the fourth one definitely, I have no idea what era that was in, and I didn't care because I thought it was like 6 months after. But then when people are like, "Oh yeah, that's 10 years later," and why does she look the same age? And why do they look like the same age? Everyone's the same age. I'm like, what? That was 10 years later. So that was done extremely poorly if I didn't notice. But then again, I don't pick up on subtle things.
Yeah.
So if they were subtly trying to do it, I think it's perfect because
I would say it's
I
kind
can ignore it.
I don't remember if Dark Phoenix had a bunch of shit all over the place, but I do remember them mentioning the year and the time. So if you knew what year it was in the last one, then you should know. But
Right, and I don't
uh,
care. I guess is also my problem in a way for
yeah,
critiques. I don't care if the story is good. If you don't play it up, that's the difference. If you don't play up the time period or have time period things that come into the story, I don't care. And obviously, even if you do bring up time period specific things, I also don't care because it doesn't. As long as it's seamless, I don't care. Like for example, if you, I knew they went back in time in Days of Future Past, and it was
Yes,
the '60s. They were saying explicitly. I think someone
'70s.
'70s. No, because it was 4 years. There was four movies, 10 years apart. You just said it couldn't
The
be
first one was
2000.
in the '60s. First Class was '60s. Days of Future Past was '70s. Apocalypse was '80s, and Dark Phoenix was '90s.
Oh, they went back in time, but still after the first movie.
Yes.
Sorry, scratch that. Correction makes sense. Perfect timing. So '70s, but I didn't really care. I knew it was old, and I knew there was themes from like that style shit, like the waterbed and like leopard skin print and everything. Um, but I
Yeah.
didn't actually give a shit, if that makes sense. Like they didn't play up
You
the
didn't have to
time
give a shit.
enough. Like it wasn't so integral to the plot. It was kind of. It was integral to the story, not the plot, but it was integral to the story. But I didn't need to be reminded this is this specific year because the story was good. It was set in the time period it needed to be in. Everything was fine. It flew fine. I didn't have any issues. But I think if you look too hard at those things, it's so easy to find critiques, which is also why I don't. So I don't critique it that harshly. But I heard a lot of criticism about the time jumps in those movies.
Yeah.
And I think if you just ignore them, you're gonna have a great time. So don't critique that. Don't think about that. Go watch it and
Yeah.
enjoy it. I don't think there's an actual
Yeah, I didn't give a
critique.
fuck about the time jumps. I don't really care.
Right, right.
Uh,
And that was one of the biggest things I heard about those movies. Why they should be 60-year-old men. Yeah, look pretty young to me. It's like I don't care if they're supposed to be 60-year-old men. They're just telling the story of these guys. But anyway, so yeah, that shit was fine. And that was back to the storytelling. That's before we left number one. I wanted to get
uh,
the whole idea on like the times and all this shit and how the time
yeah.
progressed across them. So I guess number one. I finish up number one. Anything left? I thought it was fucking phenomenal. Obviously, Fassbender
Um,
was great. I thought all the characters did a pretty good to great job. Um,
the Russian accents were terrible.
I didn't
Um,
notice. I
I
don't.
was fucking around.
I was about to
Um,
say it. This sounded okay to me, but
uh, uh, no, there's nothing left to say about the first one other than, it's funny that like the first three never mentioned Xavier never mentioned that Mystique was his adopted sister.
oh yeah,
Um,
continuity errors. But that's why I say it was a retcon.
it was yeah, it's a retcon, but
Um,
it's fine.
that's it.
Because
Well, it's a fuck. It's a Decepticon. What was the word for it? A Resticon, something like that.
we're talking about we were talking about what it is. It's a
Yeah, stupid name.
Supercon, Supercon,
Uh,
C
Pres.
pre retcon. I don't know. But
Seprecon.
the
Yeah, Sequopracons.
uh
I don't know. Not important. The name was stupid anyway.
Beast romance with Raven. Did you find it believable? Uh,
Yes, I actually shipped the fuck out of it.
oh yeah,
I liked it a lot, more so than her and Magneto, but not necessarily more so than her and Magneto, because Magneto's a fucking old hot dude, like, and he's also like trying to like play on her insecurities of hiding and shit.
yeah,
So like, fuck yeah, I'm all about those two in the sense that not that I ship it, but in the sense that like it makes perfect fucking sense. He's the antithesis to everything Charles is, and because Charles is like potentially someone she would see as a relationship thing, but kind of a brother, but she's a little ambiguous about that because she doesn't know what that means. So
yeah,
to find someone, and but he confuses her too because when she would bring things up similar to that, he would just respond very weirdly, and like so she didn't, I think, necessarily appreciate the way that he acted to her sometimes or the way that he treated different
yeah.
things.
She thought he was like he thought of her more as like a pet. That's what she said.
Right, right. So then
Uh,
when you see Magneto come up and it's like fucking sexy ass dude with a nice face, chin, strong as fuck, and everything Charles isn't, super confident. It's like, oh baby, sweep me off my feet.
Charles is confident, but yeah,
Um, I guess a little bit confident. Yeah, that's true. He was kind of arrogant though.
yeah. That's
He
how
was more
Charles is supposed to be though. Uh,
his confidence didn't come like charming. It wasn't charming confidence. It was like condescending confidence. I don't
yeah,
even know if I'd call that confidence. Um,
yeah.
because to me,
Confident.
confidence is meaning like security in who you are as a person or your ideas.
Yeah,
Whereas Magneto was very secure in his ideas and wore that very well. I think Charles was just like he didn't necessarily wear any idea particularly well. He just walked around and acted like I'm smart and I know things and this is the right way to do things. But that's kind of an idea.
but he believed in it.
That's
That
a
was
philosophy. Yeah,
so
yeah,
I would say even by your definition, it still holds up.
yeah, yeah. It holds up. That's fair. It just come off weird. Maybe it's just a
He's a
presentation.
little more agreeable than Magneto is. Magneto is very like uh um argumentative. He'd rather die on his hill than agree.
Right, right. And then since Charles becomes more agreeable in certain situations and thinks like, oh, I can sacrifice here, this and this. It makes him seem less confident
Yeah.
because it all comes down to mutants. So when it comes to mutants and he's bending over backwards with humans, it makes him seem less confident in his ideas and his ability to protect those ideas in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe you're right. It's just how they present them and how those ideas are challenged, but they're both just as confident in a way, which again makes them really good together. Their relationship is the best. I ship that. Stop. um, but
I ship Magneto and Charles.
hell yeah.
Uh,
Best friends for life. I ship them like I do Sasuke and Naruto.
I ship them more than Sasuke and Naruto.
Shit, facts. um, but yeah, no, I think overall, I like the relationship because he was not confident and didn't want to be seen. She did,
Yeah.
but they were both hiding, and that was really awesome. And then their relationship as it went on later, and the idea that like, oh, I can
That
hear
natural
you.
tension that he was still trying to hide and she wasn't. Yeah.
Right, right. That shit was good, and that the relationship how it broke down, and like it was great. And I actually love what they did with Magneto too, because he was that influence, and you could tell she kind of like fell to the dark side. Like I'm gonna go find this hot older man and seduce him or whatever, and give into all this other shit, reckless behavior for a young woman. She gave into young reckless behavior based on the term tumultuous. That word sucks.
Tumultuous.
Yeah, based on the turmoil between her and Beast and all, and her and Charles, everything else, she began to essentially act out.
Yeah.
But Magneto did have good advice for her. He really did. He had solid advice. When he dropped the weights on her and she fucking got rid of her blue shit, he was like, "Yeah, you're weak when you fucking don't
Well,
do your
well,
shit."
she got into her blue shit.
Right, right. So when that happened, it was like, yeah, that was good. He was a good influencer on a way, and then that put pressure on her and Beast, which led her to act recklessly later.
Yeah, yeah,
But that wasn't the intention. But Magneto knew that, and he was, as the adult in the situation, acted appropriately, which always made that shit feel really good. But he also loved her too in a way, sort of romantically, but kind of as a daughter's thing. It was really good because they were close enough in age that
kind of
I
as a
don't think it.
daughter.
Huh?
No, this is funny how you split that. Uh,
Oh, well, right,
Disgusting.
because they were close enough in age. I think he was like what 30.
I think him and
Because Charles is leaving. No, Charles is younger than him. Clearly, um,
they're about the same age.
they're supposed to be. I thought
Um,
he was like 5, 10 years older than Charles.
he might be a little bit older than Charles.
Because Charles is like 23, right?
'Cause
He just
he was
graduated
supposed to be
college.
like he was supposed to be like 8 years old. No, he just finished his dissertation. He should be at least 26. At least at the
26.
very
I would have said 23.
no.
Because you
He's just
start
got his
school when you're
doctorate.
18. That's five
He just
years.
started he got his doctorates already.
Yeah, that's 6 years.
That's 8 years.
8 years?
Yeah,
I thought it was six.
you get your doctorates at 8
Interesting.
at
Fair enough.
at like
So
minimum.
he'd be like 26, and then
Maybe 6. Maybe
well,
hold
he
on.
was a genius too. I don't imagine it would have. I imagine he would have finished early as well.
Yeah.
We can't prove that, so I think your argument still holds up. We're going to give him a standard average. It'd be 26, but I want to push it to closer to 24, just because I imagine he would have finished sooner. But it can be ambiguous around. We'll say 25.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think 25
Magneto
is
has
fair.
to be at least like
30.
20, 28. Yeah, he has to be at least 28 because he was less than 10 during the Holocaust,
Right,
and it ended in 1945. At least World War II.
right, right, right.
So
So yeah, I'd give him 30, 28 to 30.
20. So like, was it that's 15 years. It can be if he was like 10, he'd be 25. So actually, they're probably both about 26, 27.
Okay, fair enough.
I
So
don't
yeah,
know.
if he's about 27, and let's say Mystique is what, 22 at oldest, 18 at youngest.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so he's old enough to be responsible and view her a certain way, but she's definitely old enough, and their age gap is close enough that he'd probably still go tear it up, on like any given Saturday. So that's why I really like his character and their relationship. Also, her and Charles's is the ambiguity between I care about
He,
you as a
in first class, he was born in 1932. I don't remember exactly what year the first class takes place.
oh
Um, but yeah, he's supposed to be 60 in Dark Phoenix, which is funny.
right, right,
Um,
right. That's never gonna work. Um, but
62 for first class. So he's 30.
okay, so perfect. He's the perfect age for young enough that sure, but old enough as in nah. And I think I like that kind of balance between them because Beast is more so her, I think, actual relationship, that I shipped that for that reason. Those ones, I think those two had a very strong connection. They were very appropriate for each other. Similar age groups, struggled with the same issues. And Magneto was just the hot older guy, and I liked that he played on that a little bit. And he was also a mentor as well. But he's not going to be her
About 2 years.
friend.
Okay.
He's
Magneto's
not.
about 2 years older than Professor X. So yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
So it worked. It worked out fucking great. Their relationship and all those things. Um, Fuck, where were we going with that? There was a reason.
We're talking
Oh yeah,
about
her and Beast.
yeah.
So her and Beast, I thought were fucking great, but I think it broke down later movies. I didn't really appreciate it later movies
Yeah.
because in that movie it was all like established and interesting and done pretty well, and then you get none of it in the next one, obviously.
Uh,
Um,
she shows up. She gets shot. And when she's getting attacked, he saves her from Magneto, or tries to save her from Magneto. And he gets
oh yeah,
involved whenever he decides to help Wolverine. Like he stops being very aggressive towards Wolverine when he finds out Raven's involved in whatever Wolverine's trying to do.
right. I guess it's still there, but
It's
on
in the
Raven's side it
background more
wasn't.
than the foreground. Um,
And I get, but the story didn't lend itself to that. They couldn't have explored those ideas. The story didn't have time for that.
no.
So it's not necessarily unfair to, or for
Also,
it's
Dangerous
unfair for me
Past
to
a little
say
more
that
action
it
focused
left.
than character focused, like First Class is. So,
Right. So I can't really. It's unfair for me to say it was gone by then, because like you're saying, there were hints that it still could be there, but the story didn't have time for it. But then going into Apocalypse, it felt like that shit was gone. I
definitely.
didn't feel that shit was there anymore. So it
There
felt
was
really.
only one moment, and I think it was like when she first showed up at the mansion,
Oh
and
yeah, you're
Beast was
back.
like, yeah, that was
But
it.
you could tell, and even on the look on his face, he's not over her. And no,
They
no,
tried to make it
he
a bigger deal in Dark Phoenix too, because
right,
whenever she died, that's when Beast turned to the dark side. He got mad, so he told Magneto, Jean's the one that's one of my biggest complaints actually with that movie is that Beast was the one to tell Magneto she's the reason that uh Raven's dead, and then
right,
try to get Magneto to kill Jean.
right. No,
Bitch
that
move
was.
on Beast part, but
No, we'll get there because that movie has issues, and that form of storytelling
yeah,
I don't like that either way. They ruined a lot of the characters and their character relationships. And like for example, Beast and Magneto's relationship and how it involved her was really interesting in number one. Needed more fleshing out, but interesting enough. Disappeared, I think, for the most part in the next one. And then the final no, she was there. Wasn't she the one who talked him down at the end of Apocalypse?
Magneto, yeah, she was the one who talked to him about
Okay,
not
so at
being
least him and hers was still very much so alive. I will say, but I never said that earlier. Okay, I'm backtracking a thought I never had. Those two still had it. I think they're throughout,
yeah,
and they should. They're always shipped. There's always been his right hand man, right hand woman. Um, so
X-Men.
right hand X man. Yeah. Speaking of that stupid, I did not know they were pushing SJW shit back then, until I heard that line when she storms off. Yeah, and you better change it to X woman, because most of us are women. We'll do the heavy lifting around here, or some
That was
shit.
Dark. That was Dark Phoenix.
Oh, never
That
mind.
came
Cool.
out.
Recent enough. No wonder it was in
Yeah.
there. God
Yeah,
forsaken
so
that
yeah, that
fucking
was
whole
20,
shit.
2018. Yeah, that came out 2018.
Okay, checks out. Fuck that. That
Um,
shit was god awful.
might be
Um,
2020. Hold on.
and they were just shitting all over Charles's character. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Jeez, I hate that movie. um,
I thought Raven was the worst in Dark Phoenix. I think she
yes.
was really good, and I think Dark Phoenix really like made me think back to those other ones like worse. But when I started rewatched all of them, I was like, oh wait a minute, no, it was just Dark Phoenix that was bad. I don't
Yep.
know
I didn't
why.
even like the way they did her character. I like
Yeah,
the way
no,
she looked.
she didn't do
Like the way
nothing.
she actually looked, like on
Oh, I didn't even
screen.
look. I don't even remember
Um,
if she looked different.
she just looks stupid. Not stupid, but she just didn't look as good. Like I don't know if they used maybe more CG or there was better effects or better
I think
makeup. I
they
don't
were
know.
using CG instead of using makeup because when I went back and watched the first three,
Yeah,
she's definitely in effects or I'm sorry, not effects. She's definitely in like makeup and uh stuff
and it looked
rather
good.
than yeah.
The original three, she looked good in like makeup and shit. The
Yeah.
second trilogy,
I don't
she
think
looked
she wanted to
good
go
with
through the
CG and
process of getting
stuff.
all that makeup and stuff all over her. So
Right. Well, what I'm
um,
saying is the second one, she looked good with CG and stuff.
I don't think in the second or third one she had CG. I thought it was just the first one, the last one.
Well, she didn't have CG in Dark Phoenix. That's my
Okay.
issue. I think she looked like a low budget sci-fi getup in Dark Phoenix when she looked so much better the previous ones. And I was like, I don't know if it's because they had CG or better makeup or something, but this is the most recent movie, and the budget on her costume looked the worst. I felt like.
Yeah, I don't know. It
Google
definitely
it.
looks like it's really shitty. I
I'm gonna
don't know
Google it
what
right
the hell
here
they
because
did.
I could be misremembering. I do that a lot.
It does look different. I will say it looked a
Even
lot
her
better in the
forehead
first
dots.
one.
Her forehead dots look like they're just like little plastic
Uh,
bits. It
Yeah,
didn't seem like it's attached to her.
no, the other ones. That was saying the first three weren't CG. The first three were actually
I know. I
molded
agree with
onto
you
her
on that,
face.
and I said it looked
Okay,
good. I said they did that really well, and
that's
I
what
said I don't
I
know
said
about
that.
the
You said
next
no.
trilogy.
They did. Yeah, yeah. Well, no, no this trail. No, I'm saying like the first class,
Oh,
Days of Future Past, and um fuck, what was the one between Future Past and Apocalypse?
Apocalypse.
All
Yeah.
three of those have makeup.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not
Okay. So
until
yeah, the
Dark
vernacular
Phoenix.
there was very
So say
confusing.
yeah, Dark Phoenix was the only one that I think they used CG instead of using makeup. And I don't know for a fact.
I
It's
can't
just
believe that because it looks so bland and terrible in a lot of the shots.
well, it looks more natural. Like her face isn't bigger. Like whenever they're using like makeup and stuff, her face is a little bit thicker, and you can see the bumps and everything because they're using actual pieces that they glue onto her face that they take off later. I don't
Right.
know.
Wait, let me get some images here. So yeah, like it's a lot more intricate, I guess. Like all the previous ones were very intricate and like I don't know, it just looked real. I felt like that's a
It's
part
because
of
they
her
thought that
scaly
she was
skin.
gonna. Maybe it's because they were like, "Oh, she's gonna die soon. Doesn't matter." Um,
Maybe, because yeah, when I look at those ones, it looks like super interesting and intricate and well done. Also, look at how much space it covers on her face. If you look at the ones previous, especially the original trilogy, it covers a lot of her face.
definitely
And then
does.
I
Yeah.
look at the last one, it covers her cheekbones, close to her ears, and the forehead.
I
Um,
would say definitely. I would say the Apocalypse one. Yeah, the one she's wearing in Apocalypse still look good. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know what
right,
the
I don't know
fuck
what
they
they
were
did
doing
in
in
the
Dark.
fourth movie to make it look bad, because I liked it
Yeah.
all the way up until the fourth movie and thought it looked cheap. In the last one.
Her hair also looks different. It looks cheaper.
That too. I don't know what it is. It looks like it literally. I'm telling you, it looks like to me when I look at these screenshots and like these images, it doesn't look horrible, but it does look like a sci-fi film, like something you could just see on like sci-fi at any given evening. Versus I think before it just looked really like I don't know.
It's in first class, I would say. Um, I didn't even notice that between first class and Days of Future Past, she got less dots and stuff all over her face.
Right.
Yeah.
Um. So
She
maybe
just
that
got
was it.
progressively. Yeah, I think it just progressively got worse. You just didn't really notice till the last one.
Maybe you're
Uh,
right. Yeah. Maybe it was like like you're saying it was a progression that until it becomes so different, that's when you notice it.
yeah.
Fair enough. I guess yeah. Moving on. Or continuing on. So, Mystique, romance, things like that.
Yeah.
Uh, Beast. Yeah, I liked it a lot. Shipped, and then I think that was still in the first one. Anything left? Characters.
No, we talked about characters already.
Okay, because that
Uh,
was the last one. Was Beast and them's relationship, and
yeah.
okay, cool. So second,
That's Days of Future Past.
yes. It was good. I don't remember it much. I watched it like 2 weeks ago, so it's sad to
Yeah.
say I don't remember it much because I don't think much
Um,
happened. Air quotes. It was like they went
um,
back. Wolverine fucked about for a
they
bit.
went back in time. Kitty used her powers to send Logan back in time because he's the only one that could survive it. Um,
I remember all that part. I remember what they were
yeah.
doing, why they were doing.
He was what's the name? The Sentinel program
Yeah, Dinklage.
was
He was getting denied
yes
because they didn't have the threat level.
yes. Well, the Sentinel program was gonna use Mystique's DNA. Well, in the future timeline, they know why the Sentinels are so powerful. It's because they use Mystique's DNA to make the Sentinels like better, so they can adapt to anything any mutant can throw at them.
Yes.
And the government doesn't take the Sentinel program seriously until Mystique assassinates Trask, and then they go, "Oh, we should probably take this seriously." And they actually they actually fund his project after that. So they decide that they're going to go back in time to stop Mystique from killing um, Trask, so that way they can the Sentinels don't become as powerful as they are in the future. So they try to stop the government from getting her DNA. Essentially, that's Logan's mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I knew that much. I knew what and why and whatever. But
Okay.
I mean, like, when I say I don't remember what happened, it was the sense that, like, he gets there, he wakes up, he fucks about, he find big, here it is, found it. One of the hugest problems I had with that movie that was half the plot is fucking drug addict Charles. That shit's terrible. That shit was
Yeah.
fucking awful. You see this man like smacking his fucking. Come on, man, shoot me up, blah, I need it.
He
Fuck that
wants to
shit.
not. He doesn't want to hear the voices, and he wants to walk.
That shit
Um,
sucks. I
yeah.
know why they did it. It just fucking sucks. It's
Yeah.
super unbelievable. It's just so unbelievable.
I know what they're going for. They're trying to make like you know how Logan was like a broken, crazy individual whenever like they ran it. I mean they fucking blatantly said it in the movie anyways, but
Right, right.
yeah, he was like a
You helped
broken
me.
individual. Yeah, you helped me when I was down on my luck and yeah.
Nah, I know what they were doing, and it was just so poor, contrived. It feels very contrived. It's like, don't do that. Charles, I could see Charles having flaws and making him a deep, more dynamic character. Because one of the biggest raves everyone had, I think, about First Class and those movies in general is the fact that Charles was a dynamic character. You get to see him before he's this sort of all-powerful sage guru. I like that. I'm cool with that. But don't go that far. And I just don't do that. I think find other ways to make him do something, make him, I don't know, fuck, I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but they just took that way too far. And it was just counterintuitive to who he was as a person. Like, I just can't believe that. He's always been so fucking, like, forthcoming and so, like, hey, keep going and all this other shit. It just shit all over who he was as a character. And I don't know, I just don't see him, like, being that guy. Like, when he would fuck, like, when he lost his legs and he's, like, pissed off. And he's, like, some
I mean he
angry.
wasn't initially pissed off because of the legacy, everything stacked on top of each other.
No, but they
Uh,
did play that up. At one point, I think he said something to Magneto about his legs and was bitching about it and everything else. Like, that's. I don't know, it's just too much. I was like, well, the legs don't matter. Like, come on. Um,
Yeah, he didn't care initially about the legs, and then it was everything piled on top. It was like, all right, the legs, and then World War II or Vietnam started, then the draft. And some of his teachers got drafted, some of his students got drafted. Then he constantly sees on the news Raven and Magneto attacking humans and
well, not Magneto. He
making
was in
mutants
jail.
seem bad. Well, not yet. I'm talking about like all this stuff added up over the 10 years between First Class and Days of Future Past.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, Magneto did. They thought he killed JFK.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
forgot.
Yeah, he just kept seeing Raven and Magneto in the news, and yeah, and he found out Magneto had killed the president, and he's like, well, fuck. Um, so it just spiraled out of control, and then Hank made him the drug, and then he became addicted to the drug because it tuned out the voices, all the suffering everybody's had, and yeah, so it made sense to me, and it was like it was only one movie, and it was only the first like I don't know 20 minutes of the movie,
It was
and
long
it went
enough.
away.
They had that shit all the way up until the end.
Really, no.
Yeah, up until, like, fuck. It was up until even.
He was angry at Magneto the entire movie after, but like he was on board with Logan and stopped being a depressing bitch after like maybe 40 minutes. I give you 40 minutes
Yeah, it was a good.
of
It
the
was going
movie.
into the final act. He did it because he had that moment before they went to stop Magneto at the inauguration or whatever that scene was.
Yeah.
So it was like right before that. So it was pretty well into the end of the movie. But I tell you what, I fucking loved, dude. I'll tell you what I fucking loved. Best line. Was it McAvoy? Good God, when he delivered that shit, when fucking Wolverine was like,
Oh, the
look
fuck off
into
part.
my mind," and he's like, "I
Uh,
don't want your pain."
yeah.
Oh my God, dude, I fucking shit.
McAvoy's a good actor. He can make any line seem really good. So,
Oh my God, I was done. I was like, holy shit, Fassbender, you better move. You better do something good, or you're taking second fiddle.
okay, he
That
got a
shit.
really good scene in the next movie. Uh,
That shit was good, man. So no, he had some good shit, I think, overall, and I think I liked that line, and I liked I was okay with the drama, and I know what purpose it served, and it was good, I want to say, but I just felt like it was wrong a little bit. I felt like it was a little
yeah,
contrived, a little forced. I didn't like that. I think maybe it's because they took it over the top. Maybe it was because he looked like a fucking strung out drug addict.
he did look like a strung out drug
I
addict.
would have been cooler if he would have just been arrogant denial Charles.
Yeah,
You remember when Charles was in denial when Wolverine was telling him in number 3 that he fucked Jean's head up, that it was his fault?
yeah,
That was good. That was denial Charles. That was, this is for the better. This. What do you know? Something like that. I
yeah.
liked that. If they would have leaned on that and not strung the fuck out, passed out on a couch tapping his
Okay,
fucking thing.
I get you. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
That would have been good because he would have been like, Charles, you need to come do this, and he would have been like, no, I'm a teacher now. Okay, I know what I'm doing. And it's like, no, you don't know what you're doing, blah blah. And it's like, actually, I do. I've done this. I've been there. I know what this brings about. And it's like, I'm smarter than you. You can't tell me what to do. I know what the fuck I'm making this choice for. I'm not broken. And then it's like that would have been really compelling because it would have been more on character for Charles, I think. And that would have been good. And you could have used that, I think, in a sense, to continue to play on that going into the fourth movie, which is fucking still terrible, still contrived. But you could have played that up on his things like
Yeah.
that. You could have played that up in the sense when it was like everyone's blaming Charles for everything, which is super contrived. Everybody just turned. Jean has an accident from an uncontrollable power. You did it, Charles. We hate you. Everyone hates you. It's like, what?
God, that was so.
Are you
Yeah.
fucking serious? Like, no, not even close.
It was
So
also really weird because he was trying to tell Jean to let her like use her power, like stop holding back whenever during apocalypse. And
right,
so like to see that he held her back anyways, but he's saying don't hold yourself back. I don't
right.
know. It felt weird.
Stupid, no,
Um,
stupid. We're gonna get there and
yeah.
how contrived and terrible that story was. But yeah, number two, they could have done Charles better, way better. But he had some really good lines, and the drama was really well done, and it was good. And even when they were paying it off, like the air quotes paying it off, when like he was making his decision, and he was like Beast, and it said something, or just said whatever. I can't remember his actual name. Hank. He was Hank, and he came back, and Hank was stressed. And I actually appreciated that. It really showed how much Hank cares about him. He was such a passive aggressive dickhead in the beginning, when he was like, "There's
Yeah.
no professor here. Fuck off." I don't know. He didn't say it like that, but essentially.
Essentially,
And I
yeah.
was like, yo, fuck you, buddy. You're just gonna sit here and support your fucking friend and be a dickhead, and you're both dickheads, and he's a fucking strung out drug addict, and like, I just didn't like the atmosphere. It was all fucking terrible. But when he ran into that room and was like, here, I got a double dose. It's been a long time. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, dude. Like, you could just see the fucking care. And that's the care that parents of like drug addicts or best friends of drug addicts actually give them when they enable them in some
Yeah.
ways. And it's like, holy shit, dude, that was fucking phenomenal. That's a small piece that really paid off in a way that I'm like, fuck you. The drama was bad, but you paid it off really well. And then the voices and everything, you paid that off really well too in that scene he had with Logan. So, like, overall, I think they did a really good job in the execution. Didn't like the direction, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Still well done. But
Okay.
outside of that drama was most of it. The rest of it was we're fumbling about. We're gonna go stop Mystique. She gets shot. They do this. They come. Like almost all of the
Magneto went to
story.
go kill her for some because he was like, if she's dead, they can't use her power to kill all of us. I was not on board with that one. I
I
thought that
liked
was
it.
kind of weird. Oh no.
I actually kind of liked it because this man has been in prison and he just got out, so he's kind of feral, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He hasn't been human for a while. I don't know how many years it's been since JFK till then, but let's just say he probably had more of Charles's mentality until he went to jail for fucking, we'll say 15 years. I'll give you 10. Maybe it's, I don't know how long it's been, but at least minimum
Definitely
10. Maximum 10,
minimum
sorry.
10.
Maximum
Max.
10.
It was 73. So yeah, it was actually because first class was 62. Days of Future Past was 73.
Okay,
So
so
it's actually maximum 11.
maximum 11.
But yeah,
Okay, maximum 11, minimum, I don't know, 5, I'll say.
I'm gonna go look up real quick. Assassination. 63. Yeah. All right. Well, 10. He's been there 10 years.
Okay, so yeah, he's been in there for 10 years. That's a long time. And we know he's
Well,
anger prone. Like, we know he has
maximum
history.
10 years because yeah, definitely because I don't know how long it took him to catch him, but yeah.
Right.
Um,
Long enough that he would have had time to double back, to relapse, to begin to hate humans, to begin to
yeah.
be fearful again.
I already hated humans
Well, yeah,
at the point. Yeah.
but to have that be reinforced, and then to see all these things happening, his zealot mentality, I think, is so much more going to be reinforced after that amount of time. Um, and I think overall, I don't know. I don't even think he trusts Charles in a way, because you could see even when they got out, he was a little bit distrustful. Not distrustful, but he seemed awkward when talking to Charles. They didn't seem like buddies. He didn't seem like anybody's buddy, really.
He seemed like he was trying. Well, no, I feel like he was trying to reconnect with Charles, and Charles was like telling him to fuck off. I thought he was being like apologetic towards him.
No, maybe you're right. Yeah, I could see that. He at least wasn't being standoffish. But then Charles
Yeah.
was being a little
He was the one
standoffish.
trying to reach out, and Charles was one that was telling him to fuck off.
Right, right.
Until he mentioned that he actually tried to save JFK because he said, "Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Because he was one of us." And then I think like a couple, like literally the next scene was with them trying to stop Raven, and then he flipped the fucking switch. So you know what? I'm just gonna kill this bitch, and then they'll never be able to get her power, which is stupid because all they need was her DNA. Her blood's all over the fucking floor. There you go. You're just giving it to all of them.
Now,
So
I don't think he thought that part through. Um, I don't think he would have thought that part through. But the killing
yeah,
her in response to what happened as a way to as a stopgap,
yeah.
I 100% am okay with. He hasn't seen this bitch in 10 years, and to be honest, they didn't have like a super close relationship. No, they did. They were part of the sort of freedom fighters, kind of. But I don't know. When did the last movie end?
62.
1 year, maybe
Yeah.
less. So they
Yeah.
spent less than
But
a year
they spent
together.
a whole year together. Yeah.
Wow, a whole year? I don't
A
believe
whole
it.
year.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I'm not saying the relationship didn't exist, but clearly they didn't necessarily have a relationship in first class, right? So
Yeah.
like, it was there, but he was more of a mentor kind of thing. I don't think he cared about her. I don't think that had been established at all.
He cared about mutants. That's the thing is that
Right.
he doesn't kill mutants for like that. That's a reason. Fine, I'm not gonna say for no reason, but he definitely has a good reason usually when he kills another mutant. Because
Right.
otherwise, he always tells like everyone not to kill Charles, not to kill X-Men because he wants mutants to be together.
We talked about this
So
last time. I think also it's because of his relationship with them.
yeah,
It's out of respect for Charles. He won't kill. I think those mutants in particular, the X Men
I
or
don't think he
anyone
kills
related.
any mutants in particular like at all,
But the ones
unless
he
they
doesn't kill outside of that, he thinks he can convert. If that makes sense. They're his
yes.
brothers. They're his brothers. Like they're potential brothers and sisters, or they belong to
Yeah,
Charles.
but I'll say that I don't think that's enough of a reason to kill Raven. I like that's just something
Oh yeah, well I
I'll
don't
believe.
disagree in like a level-headed, I guess, and I don't even disagree objectively. It could be. I can see where that would make sense. I guess on the other side, where I think it's a little bit sensible, is that he
Yeah,
didn't have a relationship with her as a person. So, and they spent a year together, but we don't know what they did or how close they were. So you could argue
yeah.
they had some relationship, but not very close.
Mm-hmm.
And he spent
Also, she
10
never broke
years
him
in
out.
prison.
So yeah,
Um, so you spend 10 years in prison, and then now what? It's like now you just get out, you're finally free, and you find out that humans are going to create a mega weapon that's going to kill every mutant on the planet, and there's nothing you can do about it, and she's the key.
yeah,
And you fucking panic. I
yeah,
think he was in complete. He's been isolated for 10 years. He's not a regular human being. You see it all the time. People get out of jail and they don't even know how to associate with other humans. And he wasn't even just in jail, he was in solitary for 10 years.
Then he completely backtracks, like literally the next scene, though.
No, that's why I say. This is what I'm saying, though.
Okay,
This is why I like your idea.
okay,
He does that, and he's fucking hell bent. And then, scene's over, right? Scene's over. He has time to think. And that fucker stops, and now he's level-headed Magneto to some degree. Motherfucker, if they just need her DNA, the bitch's blood is all over the place. And
yeah,
also, I didn't kill her. Maybe I shouldn't have even tried to. You know what I mean? Like, he had time to think about
yeah,
his actions. And then literally he's the one who comes back to the booth, and she says, why the fuck should I trust you right now?
yeah,
He was like, because they already have your blood. We're all dead anyway. And he said it with a sort of sadness, I think. I don't think he said it as a matter of fact. I think he said it as a sort of defeatist, like, they already
yeah,
got us. You know what I mean? And I liked that scene for that reason. And that's why I think he went feral in a way and did what all the. Because we know he's the kind of guy who will do what it takes to make ends meet.
yeah,
Not always. I think he's more level headed than that, but under duress or stress. Because if you look at it even in the comics, and this is one thing interesting about this when reading or watching videos in response to reading, one thing that I've heard and I guess I've seen is that I've never seen him pissed off. Like, pissed off. Like, losing control pissed off. He's
okay,
been angry. He's been
fair enough,
firm.
fair
He's
enough.
been very forthcoming about his ideology and things, but he's never been, like, out of control pissed off. And that's actually one thing that dude noted. He was like, yeah, Magneto's character doesn't do that. But in the end of House of M, he loses his fucking mind. Like, when he finds out what she had done, that's a big deal. Like, that's the first time you see him, like, say and do some shit like that. What was it? It was about the lie. Was it? I think it was before House of M or after. because Scarlet Witch had done something. I can't remember what she did. Maybe she killed Charles. I think it was after he found out she killed Charles. I think. I want to say that was what it was. I can't remember. I have to fucking go back and
Yeah.
reread this. But whatever the fuck she did, he lost his mind, and you had never seen him like that. And I think that's what happened in this scene as
Just
well.
kill Wolverine.
Um, is well, yeah, maybe I guess, and maybe he doesn't care as much about Wolverine. But I do know that in that scene, I think it was. I'm gonna give him credit to say that he made a choice in the heat of the moment. And also, we get a lot of older Magneto and a lot of other things. This is younger Magneto. So I
Yeah.
think there's a lot that plays into this. I think he's a complex enough character that I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he would have made that decision in the moment. And then, like you said, he flip flops. Well, because he immediately fucking had some time to think and was like, "Yep, that was kind of fucking stupid." And then he continues on. So I liked it. I think I liked it overall. I liked it, all of it. But not a lot happened though. So it was a lot of drama. A lot of drama. They go find Mystique. They fight. He leaves. Then he goes and tries to control the Sentinels for himself. Then the big bad fight at the end. Um, there wasn't a lot of exposition, lore, world building. There wasn't a lot of that shit. I think it was a very cut and dry. We're doing this. We're doing this. We're doing this kind of thing. And I think that's fine. But what made it feel worse is you knew that was coming because they went into the past. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like half the movie is you're just doing what we know is going to happen, kind of thing. So it makes it a little bit. It makes it feel less engaging or less deep. But any other movie, if you didn't know that was coming, it'd still be interesting. But because they're trying to change something that you know is coming, it makes it a little bit less like interesting as these things develop. And then after that happened, it went straight to like the ending kind of areas. So the movie doesn't lend itself well to like lore and world building and all this cool crazy shit. Kind of like
Yeah.
moving into Apocalypse, unless you want something on two.
Thinking about what else left to say about two.
Right.
Uh,
I don't think there's much. Is my issue. I'm like, there's not much to talk about. Fassbender's the
talk
best part
about
of the whole movie.
yeah, we
Um,
talked about McAvoy. We talked about Moira wasn't in this one. Um,
oh yeah.
uh,
I mean,
his
Logan was in
beastly
it, but
nature.
Logan's
I
not.
still, I don't know. I have to go back and look at some of the comics or like because I never thought Beast was ever ashamed of his thing. It might be something that they took liberties with for First Class,
Yeah,
but
and I'm okay with
uh,
that. If they
yeah,
did, I think they took it too far though. I think by the end of the first one, he should have been Beast.
yeah, just
And then it,
accepted who he was. Yeah,
right,
and
because he
then
did. That was kind
yeah.
of the whole thing. Even Magneto was like, "You got to unleash the Beast," kind of thing, and like he was supposed to develop with
I don't.
Raven into a
I
sense
thought it
of
was a little
security.
weird that he used his fucking thing to heal his Magneto's spine. I said, okay. How does that work?
Who knows?
But it's fine. Yeah, whatever. Science magic thing.
Right,
We need his powers to be off for the first part of the movie. We need we need him to be able to walk, because we don't want to have him in a wheelchair the entire time. Um,
right. Well, it
but
was. You could talk about the adaptability of Raven's shits, maybe, because it was based off her genes.
yeah, it would have made more sense if they got Darwin's blood. But whatever. But what would you do for that plot? He's dead. You can't do nothing. Then you have to go back in time before First Class, and nah.
Right, right,
So.
right, right.
Yeah, it was like the way they talk about the adaptability. I was like, that makes more. That sounds like Darwin's ability. Whatever.
Right. It's true. Because I've never understood her ability. I always thought it was essentially an
You can
illusion,
transform.
but it's
Uh,
hard to say. Because I talked to Chris about this randomly one night. I said, Chris, or maybe it was you guys, somebody, one chat, and it was like, do you think she can change her actual weight and her dimensions? Could that mean because that leaves unlimited possibility? But
yeah.
yeah. Other than that, anything on
Great.
two? Um,
Not that I can think of. No,
Scenes we
there's
thought were
nothing.
cool. I thought the Sentinels were cool in the end. I thought the Sentinels were really cool. They weren't super cool. They weren't my Sentinels hashtag, but they were close enough. And I was like, that's neat.
You know about the ones that the kids were fighting?
Yeah.
At the end.
Or no, no, not
Oh, it was
those.
kid.
Not those. The
No, no,
one.
no.
Uh,
That was in Apocalypse, anyways.
the
Fuck.
purple ones because we saw the
Yeah.
ones at the end. That we saw. Oh yeah, that's how. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There's problems with that movie. Another problem I had with it was the very beginning. The very beginning I had a big problem with, and yeah, it's kind of a problem on retconning a little bit or whatever you would say, but I didn't like that they had these Sentinels, um, and they were enslaving mutants. That was kind of my problem. Is that like I'm cool with the Sentinels going around. Obviously, the historical shit was the Sentinels killed everyone and everything. Um, I think the only
I think they were trying to adapt the version of they kind of were mixing and matching from the animated series and
uh
the comic books. So
okay. Because
The
I
animated
remember them
series, because
killing.
they couldn't kill people in the animated series. They just had them in camps, and then they'd force them to track down other mutants for them. And they said after a certain quota, we'll let you free or some shit like that. And then
Right.
they lied to them because that's what, because Bishop had, like, it started off with like Bishop capturing Wolverine and two random mutants that Wolverine was saving, and
Hmm.
then he was like, they were like, oh, your I forgot what number they gave him, but they said seeker, blah number, random number here, you've met your quota. And he's like, all right. And then they're like, initiating termination or some shit like that. And he was like, what? And Wolverine was like, I told you, bub, you're working for the wrong guys.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, Wolverine was working with Forge on making a time machine to go
Right.
back in time, and then Wolverine was too old and weak to do it, so they sent Bishop. Uh,
Right.
so I was, yeah, because I don't think Bishop was in the original timeline in the act. No, no, he was. I think he was. Yeah, he definitely was in the, because he went into the, because it was no, yeah, the comic books it was Kitty. In the comics, it was Kitty Pryde, and she went back in time into
Yes.
her young self because she was a grown ass woman.
Yep.
And she went to her young self, and yeah, yeah, okay,
Which I thought
but
was
yeah,
weird that they gave it
yeah.
like, why her?
Oh, she was like during that run, she was the quote unquote audience, like, not
Favorite?
surrogate. What's the word?
Fan favorite?
No, it was the like you. That was you in the comics because she was getting stuff explained to her, so it
Oh,
by
she was the
extension you were.
exposition.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she wasn't the
Gotcha.
exposition. She was the one that was getting exposited to.
Exposizer.
Yeah. Um. So
Okay.
she was you essentially. The reader. She is the reader.
Right.
So
Got you.
um.
Makes sense. So, but yeah, no, I think that overall the beginning was really frustrating for me because number one, they introduced the air quotes Sentinels. I was like, fuck them,
Yeah.
get them out. They look stupid. They're not my Sentinels. I hate this movie already. Um, that was my jerk reaction. I said, fuck
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
They
But they
were
look like that
cool.
because they're supposed to look like Raven's ability or whatever whenever she morphs.
Right.
Um.
So they were cool as like bad guys, right?
I
Put
didn't
those
care for
fuckers
him.
in iRobot or something. Oh, baby. um, they were sick.
Hashtag not my signal.
Dude, no, they were the sickest fucking like robot bad guys that I'd seen in a long time, right? I give them
Yeah.
credit for making really fucking awesome bad guys. But they're hashtag not my sentinels. Get the fuck out of here. And then after that, it was this. They in the beginning they showed them all as like slaves and stuff, and that made me feel bad because I was like, no, they kill everyone. That was the whole moral of the thing. And they did mention that they were killing humans. They tried to squeeze it in. Maybe I see what you're saying. They tried to kind of bit a
They were
hybrid.
killing mutants, and they were killing mutants, and they were killing people who would eventually have mutant children. That's what they said.
Right. So they tried to weasel in there to say that, oh, see, they were killing some humans, air quotes. But the
They were
fact that the other
showing
ones
it,
were like
but they definitely, no, they did kill fucking mutants throughout the movie every time, like, because they always barely made it out.
yeah, I'm not saying they
Um,
didn't kill mutants at all. I'm saying I didn't like that there were a lot of mutants that were in the beginning shown to be in these little slave camps and
yeah,
moved to like internment shits, and it looked like the humans ran the world.
it
Essentially,
was
it was like
supposed to be,
the humans are
yeah,
on top, and the Sentinels won us the war. Essentially,
yeah,
I didn't like that plot line. I think it's a little. It's not a bad plot line, but I thought we were done with the racism shit. I guess it
no,
just. I
never.
was like, no,
That's the whole reason
that was the
for
whole
it.
point for me. It was like the Sentinels proved to you that the racism was the wrong call, and they killed literally everyone and everything on the planet. That was the whole fucking deal. So to
Because eventually they would, because they kept what's it called, they'll always have mutants, like it's in the genes of humans now. They're going to eventually have, somewhere down the line, their kids are gonna eventually have
right,
mutate and
it's the
have
next stage of evolution.
the X gene and become mutants. So they just decided Sentinels killed everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I thought it was interesting. And they leaned a little
And
bit on that, but they didn't really.
it,
They still kept it kind of weird, and I
yeah.
just didn't like that. How the introduction was very bad for me. Um, the characters were cool. The fights were fucking awesome. She
It
said,
was,
"You're too late," and they teleported away. I was like, "Dude, cool." Like, I mean, the fights. It was all good. It was well done as a
well, they didn't
movie.
teleport away. They just changed
Oh yeah,
the
changed
timeline, so they
timelines, but it looked
moved.
like they
Yeah.
teleported.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was really cool. When they got the fight scenes, but yeah, I don't know. It just I had a big, not a huge issue. It wouldn't like it ruined the movie, but it definitely put me on the wrong foot going into it.
Yeah.
That was something I never mentioned. Fuck. What else? Um, that was about it. Oh, the cool scene. I like the really cool scene at the end when Mystique is like, talking to Magneto and shit, pretending to be the president and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And had some other good stuff. But overall, I think that's the rest of like the kind of eventful things. I think.
Hmm.
Into number three. Number three was good? Question mark. Um,
The Apocalypse? I don't. I
yeah.
liked Apocalypse less than Days of Future Past. To be honest.
Yes, I can agree with that. Uh, I think it was. I don't know. It's hard to say because it had cool things, right? Number one, it had Apocalypse, but he was done kind of poorly. So it's like, you got to check mark, then you got to strike. It had really cool, like huge scenes and like cool special effects and like mutants doing
What
cool
was your
stuff.
first exposure to Apocalypse? Was it Evolution?
Uh,
The one where they're in uh the 2000s animated series
no,
with the
my that was
okay.
I think that maybe my second. My first exposure to Apocalypse was the game,
Okay.
the top-down game where you could play as like
Marvel
Magneto.
Alliance.
You could play as yeah, Deadly Alliance or Marvel Alliance. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
PS2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first exposure, and he was fucking sick. Um, so I liked the character, and then obviously over the years later, I got exposed to him more so, and I heard about. It's funny when I found out more about him. He's not even good at anything. Like he can live forever. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. He has no powers. He can just live forever, and he stumbled upon celestial technology and said, "Cool, I can integrate this with my body."
Yeah.
And then they told him how to use it. Like he didn't even know how to use it at first either. Then he found some celestials who were like, hey, you're old. You have our stuff. You want to learn how to use that? Yeah, tell me how." Like it's just hilarious. Think like the most powerful dude in like fucking not the multiverse, but the most powerful one of the most powerful mutants things in that universe
Yeah.
is not powerful at all. He's just fucking mooching on celestial technology. I think it's kind of funny.
I mean, he was one of the very first mutants, right? So his power wouldn't be like that crazy. I don't
Right,
know.
right. But it was just funny that he doesn't do anything in particular by himself. Because he does all these wild things that get written off in the stories as just celestial technology. Um,
Yeah.
and that's what's like, I didn't know that. That was just a jarring thing for me to find out. Like, I'm going to make you one of my horsemen and do all these things. It's like, you didn't do anything. I always thought he had these, or like, I can do all this stuff. And that brings me to the next question of what the fuck they did with his powers in that movie, which I'm not mad at. Um, a lot of people are pissed off about it. I'm okay because you didn't have the design space to introduce Celestials. May also not have had the rights. Who knows? Um,
No, they don't have the rights.
so it's
100%.
like you couldn't necessarily introduce his powers traditionally. You can't just say
I mean, those people are gonna exist though who complain about something not being there, and like, well, the studio didn't have the rights to it. Well, they shouldn't have done it at all. I told you about that one guy I talked to who was like getting mad over Infinity War. He's like, yeah, Wolverine wasn't even in it. I'm like, they don't have the rights to Wolverine. What do you mean they don't have the rights? It's Marvel. And I'm like, I had to go explain the whole,
right the '90s.
yeah, the 90s and
Let me
all the
explain to you the '90s.
what happened.
That's funny.
And then he was like, well, they shouldn't have done it at all then.
No, that's I think I that's now that you bring that up, I think I'm not mad that they tried to change it, but you're right. I would have preferred them just to say he has these powers, don't explain where they come from.
Yeah,
Because we're gonna
that's
know.
fair.
We know he has celestial technology. If you look anything into him, you know
Yeah,
that. And if they don't explain it on screen, the other viewers aren't gonna give a fuck. They're gonna be like, "How does he do those things? He's a mutant." Oh yeah, they're not gonna care.
exactly. Exactly.
Like normies aren't gonna care, and the people who do care already know where they came from. So no, you're right. I think, and the people who do care are gonna be pissed off that you ruined the character's origins and of his powers. So I think maybe yeah, you're right. It could have been just strictly better to do them historically the
They
way they
kind of did
always were.
that. They kind of did that in this movie with like saying that he has this his mutant ability is to be able to transfer his mind into another person, but he retains whatever powers he had in that body and then gains the powers of whatever
You're
mutant he
right.
goes into.
How do we
So they
explain
did,
he's weak, but he
yeah,
just took other people's powers? You're
yeah,
right. It was a different way to do that. I like it more so now. That's a good way to look at it. That it actually is completely an allegory for his existing powers without the rights.
yeah.
Nice. Good shit. You heard it here first, folks. So anybody who bitches about that, it was a development choice behind the scenes for the writers and the directors to say, how do we put that in the story without having the rights to it? Let's do it like this. So fuck off anybody who's pissed off about it. I'm not saying it was well done. I feel it's still kind of bad, but give it credit in the sense here's what they were going for and why they were doing that.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. Uh, but yeah. So his whole cool powers or whatever. Okay. I liked his four horsemen. In the beginning, it would have been
Yeah.
cooler. I think if we got more of them. I was a little sad that they all just died. Because they seemed like they had really interesting and fun and cool powers. And I liked them a lot more, and their devotion to him and them being these horsemen, I think
You're
was
one of the
much.
ones that died in the very beginning of the movie, or you're talking about the new
Yeah,
ones he gets
the four.
halfway through?
Um,
Okay.
the original four. Yeah, he had.
Okay.
They would have been much better bad guys. I believe anyway.
They wanted to introduce Storm, but not put Storm on the good side, because then there'd be too many of them. Unless they make his horsemen like that powerful. Like you had Cyclops fighting one, Storm fighting one, Magneto fighting one.
Right, which they traditionally have been that powerful or more, if not more. So I thought it would have been cool because they were interesting because they were fucking zealots. And you can write those zealots in any way you want to progress the plot in a meaningful and interesting way. And then you can have Magneto come back in a more meaningful and interesting way. Listen, Fassbender, oh my god. When he did that fucking scene in the woods, I swear to God, dude. Is this what I am?
Oh, so good.
Dude, I was about to cry. I was like, don't do it. I can't take it. But the contrivedness of the whole fucking thing. It was so well done. I say contrived, sounding like it's a bad thing. That entire 20-minute section of him and his family and everything, and it was so fucking well done. But it was also so unnecessary. You didn't need to do that, and you didn't even make him a villain. That's the problem. Like, you did all that to make him a villain and didn't make him a villain, because that's the whole point of his character. He already went through that arc, and he's past it, and he doesn't do that again. Which, again, it still worked.
He was about to kill all those dudes until Apocalypse showed up, and then Apocalypse didn't kill those. Or then Apocalypse killed those dudes.
Right. But, like, that was already... We did that before.
He killed those soldiers, so I guess, man...
Yeah, he killed those soldiers, yeah. I mean, I guess he did kind of come back as a bad guy a little bit, but not by the end. I just felt kind of bad, but it felt kind of good. Because one of the things that made that line so impactful and made his transition so much fucking more meaningful is the fact that he literally tried again. Is this what I am? And he had tried so fucking hard. For him, for Charles, for humanity, for everything. He had been trying. So to have it ripped away again, that's fucked. That's gonna break somebody. And then they just threw that away. So I'm not okay. I'm not fine with the story and how it progressed in that way. I'm cool with that. But make him never come back again. Kill him at the end of that movie. If you're going to do it that way, you should have killed him at the end of that movie. You should have made him the bad guy, possibly.
But he can't die. He's Magneto. That means this eternal struggle with Charles.
I know, and it sucks. Because if you would have made him truly crack, that's the last straw. And they made it seem like that the way they filmed them and wrote those scenes. This is it. He's done. This is the last fucking straw. And he was going to just kill the entire planet, essentially. He was cool with that. He literally was cool with killing everyone and everything in existence, and I was A-okay with that. Because that should have been the last straw. But then they just half-assed it. So that's what makes it feel so bad. Also, let's the elephant in the room. That arrow should have 100% killed that little girl, but the mom should have at least been bleeding out. I was not okay with that scene. Not such a bad thing. Because I know people who were just like, oh god, it ruined the whole immersion. It ruined everything. And you see like dudes online talk about it. And it's like, I get it. It was a little nonsensical, a little non-believable. It was a wooden fucking arrow, and it was half-cocked. Because the dude, when he was stumbling, let it go. So it wasn't like it was a fully cocked arrow. But the fact that it goes through a little girl, yes, she should have been dead almost instantly. She'd bleed out pretty quick, too. She's a little girl, and it hit her right through the fucking chest.
Yeah.
But I think it wouldn't have went far enough into the mom that she would have been bleeding out, and she would have had a couple words with him at the end.
Yeah.
That would have been good. That would have been really good for his character, too, because she could have seen the pain and the shit happening and been like, you know, a reinforcement for good behavior. That could have been his last reinforcement for good behavior, and then you know he's not going to do it. He's going to be fucking filled with fucking anguish and sadness and rage. He's not going to go, but that could have kept him going. He didn't even have that. So it's like, I think
you could add like her have a speech with him about being of goodness and not going back to what he is.
Right.
And he kills all the soldiers, and at the end of the movie, when they finally convince him, he has recalls that, right?
Right. And then he has fucking, and they never played up the whole thing, which I like by the actor's point of, not the actor, but by the character's standpoint. She says, I'm here for my family. He says, and you? I'm here for my, or no, he said, I need to tell, he said, yes, because I'm here for my family too. And it was like, holy shit, dude. You didn't fucking say it. And I loved it because his character wouldn't have said it.
Yeah.
And I love that part. So you expect it. He's going to be the reason that pulls him back from justice or whatever.
From the darkness.
Or from the darkness, yeah, sorry. It was fucking words.
Pulls him from justice, brings him back to the darkness.
Right. But then, yeah, that would have made it work, and I thought they could have played on that. That's why I think that scene would have been better. She has the speech, and then it doesn't work. Fucking Quicksilver can't do what he was supposed to do in that scene.
Yeah.
Air quotes supposed to do. He is like a double Nintendo, on his part, and then he has to save the day kind of thing by bringing him back to the light. But then that scene could have done it. That him and his wife could have. And it was like they could have done so much better with what they did do. It just, but I don't know. It was just so good though. The fucking Fassbender, goddamn dude. If it had been a weaker actor, that movie would have been a fucking garbage movie. And like number one would have been fine. I think number one would have been fine. Two would have been okay if it was a weaker actor, but definitely Apocalypse would have just fucking sank into the dust for me. It'd have been the Titanic going down quick for me if he wasn't in it and he wasn't acting so well. But I think overall it does struggle storytelling wise for him, and that's why I say back to this whole part of he became essentially one of the Horsemen, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it because I think that he wasn't one of the Horsemen. That's my problem. Storm wasn't a fucking Horseman. Because what he does in the comics is he finds somebody who's weak, and then he promises them some shit and fucking brain controls them.
Yep.
He takes them into a fucking machine and covers their body with fucking crazy shit and transforms them and makes them fucking mind control puppets. He didn't do that to any of them. Like, he just, I think Angel a little bit. He was the coolest one. I think he was the most well done. He was already fucked up in the head and he fixed him, and like he was already like, yeah, fuck that. He was pretty much a zealot. He was cool. Storm was never on that side, ever. Even from the beginning, she pretended, but she was a fucking confused, scared little kid who just wanted to fight for justice. She was never believable as a Horseman. Magneto was kind of believable, but completely dropped that midway through and just became a plot device to ruin the whole world and just stayed in his bubble for half the movie.
Yeah.
So he fucking fell short. Angel was good. Psylocke was stupid. I don't know. I just something about her character. She didn't act very well. I don't think that was well acted. I liked her. No, I think I liked her a little bit. She would have been a really good 15-minute character. Like when she was the assistant to what's his name, the fucking information dude.
Yeah, Caliban.
Yeah, she was a really cool assistant to him, and her powers and stuff were cool. And she was like, defending. That was really interesting. I liked her in that role. But when she become this main fucking thing, no, she didn't pull it off very well. I don't know what it was about it, but it just didn't. Maybe it was the acting. Maybe it was the something about it. And her fight was okay. Her fight in the end was kind of cool. I actually enjoyed her little fight with B. She had the whip and everything. It was cool.
Yeah.
So she had some cool fights. But just as an Apocalypse Horseman, and then eventually she runs off like a bitch. So by the end of the movie, she just turned tail and ran. I was like, what? You didn't even finish your
fucking dies too.
right. I was like, you didn't finish your plot line. Like that's why I don't like.
Angel was. I said they retconned who Angel was and where he was from. I think he was supposed to be German now.
Yeah.
But he was supposed to be that guy's son in like a senator's son in the third movie,
right?
The original trilogy.
Right.
I don't know.
I'm cool with it because you could say that because they changed the timeline.
But it was so weird because it was like, okay, so there's Angel from Last Stand, who is the senator's son, and then there's Angel from this movie, who's this German dude, and then there's Angel from First Class. So
right. No, that's true. That's true.
They could have gave her a different name. They could have used, I don't know, a different dude who could fly. I don't know.
Right. No, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I agree with that. And but
they wanted to do Archangel. I know that's what they just said. Fuck it. Well,
right.
That's how I get. Yeah.
The people like it. Put it in there.
Yeah.
But that's why I didn't like them as the Four Horsemen. Versus if he had just brought his goons with him from the past, they would have been so fucking compelling. Because number one, you didn't have to do all the contrived ass shit with Magneto, and then number two, you would have fucking like interesting bad guys that you could kill off, who could do meaningful things to the plot. Because they already established they had that strength, so like they start fucking a city up, and it's like, yo, what the fuck?
When they kidnapped Charles, they could have been like trying to. That's when they could have went to go try to recruit Magneto to get him to help, because he would have enough motivation to help his friend at that point. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah, they could have. He would have been interesting. Storm would have been like found by
They did that in like Last Stand, right, where they went and recruited Magneto for help. They could have. I mean, I guess they'd be treading the same ground. They didn't want to do that again. But I mean,
shit. Then they go into Dark Phoenix.
I would say, no
making
them go back and forth. Also like treading the same ground again, though, like making him. Oh, we're gonna make him a bad guy again. We're gonna give him a tragic. Yeah. So,
and I think it wasn't treading the same ground in the sense that give him his reason to fight, because what's his name has conflicting ideas on what a mutant is. If that makes sense. He fights for mutants, but Apocalypse only fights for better.
Himself.
He thinks, well, he fights for Darwinism essentially. The
Yeah.
strong will survive. There's many times he could have wiped out history, but he
Yeah.
just doesn't. He just wants to watch things evolve, and he just wants to watch TV. He just wants to
Hmm.
fucking sit around. And but when things do become too boring, or he lets weak people become too powerful, he goes and wipes them all out. Then the
Hmm.
X Men try and stop him, and then he says, "Oh, you're pretty strong. I'll leave you alone, even though I can kill all of you easily." Um, and he gets bored with it and leaves. Usually, it's kind of how it ends up working.
Yeah.
But you just got to show him you're strong, and it's kind of his whole shtick. Which is why his four horsemen are usually strong-willed people or strong in some way. But anyway, and that's why he sends the four horsemen to start killing off people. And if they beat up the four horsemen, well, hey, you're strong enough not to beat up those guys. You can live for a couple more thousand years. Um, but yeah, you could have picked up Storm. Magneto. They even established it. Mystique was the fucking superhero for Storm. So when Apocalypse is doing his fucked up shit and Storm and fucking Mystique goes to help, she finds Storm. You don't have to give her the power boost, just make sure she's super powerful already. And then take her to the good guy's side. And she would have fit in from the start, and she could have fought her own horsemen, and it would have been cool, and she would have had a motivation. Maybe the horseman was destroying her homeland. I don't fucking know. It would have been really cool. Like, you could have introduced characters in that way. And it's like, but then the horsemen are super interesting, because then it's like, yeah, who the fuck are these guys? What powers do they have? And what are they going to do next? Because then he could send them off to start fucking people up across the world, and that's how you get people involved. That's how you bring all these groups together, is by using them to get everyone on board. And that would have worked, because Magneto would have been like, no, you're not going to kill these mutants. It's like, well, no, they're weak mutants. They deserve to die too. No, fuck you. I'm going to kill you. And then he's fighting against one of the horsemen himself. And then he gets with Charles and says, have you seen these people? And let's say they kill two of them. Let's say the X-Men and Charles kill one, and then Magneto and his dudes kill one. Then there's two of them with Apocalypse at the very end, and they have this big climactic shit. Would have been good. And there's not enough people to where you have to condense. Like, there's not too many bad guys to uncondense the fight, but there's not only just Apocalypse. So you can have your singular fights, and you can do the people's moments really well. I just think overall it would have been like there's so many reasons why I feel like I can point out why that would have been a good, you know, telling to keep those guys alive and what they could have done for the story. Which
Yeah.
also, I remember something from number two. Number two, I swear to God, George, I thought they were setting up the Four Horsemen in number two, and I swear to God they were. But they never came back to fruition. Do you remember when they had Havoc and the three other dudes in that tent, in the military
Yeah.
base?
Yeah. What's his name? Toad, and it was more than three guys.
I thought it was I thought it was four.
I could have swore it was more. Well,
It was Havoc, Toad, weird dude who had like biological powers, like pestilence essentially, and one other dude.
it might have just been a hint, right?
Because the one dude literally had a tattoo of
I
like
don't
the
think those
biohazard
guys would.
symbol.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't think it was 100% supposed to be them if that's where you're going with it. But it was
Right.
just supposed to be a hint of, hey, this was gonna come up next for like Eagle Eye viewers.
I
Um,
see. I think I would have liked it kind of as them because it
but as
actually
Havoc
plays
and
into what they would have done. Because you know Havoc's always been a hothead.
yeah,
You could have made him into death or war. Sorry, not yeah, war.
yeah, I
You could have
think it
made
was
him into
more.
war pretty easily. Like it wouldn't have been hard. The other dude literally had a fucking biohazard tattoo on his neck, and he just disintegrated those guys with some sort of disease.
Well,
There's your pestilence.
his tattoo wasn't biohazard. His tattoo was something different, and then it transformed into biohazard. So his fucking mutant power had to do with his tattoos. His tattoos changed based on something, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but okay.
Right. Yeah, I didn't read
Um,
too far. I guess I just seen the one and read into it
because it
as like,
wasn't a
oh,
biohazard initially, it turned into biohazard as he was like pointing his arm at them, and then
right.
it did
Okay.
something. So
But yeah, I thought they really could have went in that direction. I was like, oh, they're setting it up. They're setting it up.
yeah, maybe.
And then just completely. So even that would have
But
been
I mean,
cool.
even like they didn't think that far ahead, anyways, and like a lot of their stuff. Like they probably thought, oh, we're gonna do Apocalypse next, and we're gonna hit that these guys are gonna be the four horsemen right here, Toad, Havoc, and two randoms because I don't know who they were.
Right.
Couldn't tell by
Facts.
the way they looked, but because I think was it First Class whenever Xavier's talking about how there's more mutants out there, I need to go find them. There was a little black girl with white hair, and in the montage of characters that were kids that what running around when he was doing his little not soliloquy, what's the word, speech to
Yeah.
Moira about all his people are out there, and I was like, oh look, there's Storm, and then we see Storm in Apocalypse, and she does not have white hair. She gets her white hair from Apocalypse, so
Right.
because it made
Right.
it a cool scene.
No, and
So
that's one thing that I think sucks, and I have to wonder if they film these movies or they write or direct these movies on scenes. Wouldn't it be cool
Maybe.
if this scene?
Yeah, probably.
And I'm not saying that's a drawback or a problem, because that's
What
how
DC
fucking Kubo
does.
writes.
Yeah.
And that's how I've wrote before. These are unfinished stories, but they're stories that I did write from an idea, and I
Yeah.
wrote these scenes that these characters
There
would
was
be
an
in.
idea.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, oh, and then they would meet here, and I would want this moment to happen. So if you have that style of writing, it's not bad for an original IP. But if you grew up writing that way and you've had success writing that way, you do not need to be the one who's writing a second or third movie, or coming into a trilogy, or even anything like that. Like, or coming into, that's just not good filmmaking, especially if they're going to have multiple films. That's the problem. It's not good filmmaking for one if you're going to have more than one film, and it's definitely even worse if you're coming in on the back end. Because then you can't do that. You can't say, oh, I'm going to have this scene. It's like, well, we didn't write that. You're going to have to contrive the fuck out of it to get that to happen. No, 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 trust me, my vision. Once you see it on screen, it'll be really cool. And it was really fucking cool. The scene where he makes her super strong, gives the white hair, I was like, yo, cool. So it's a good scene, but I think overall,
Cool, yeah.
continuity-wise, it's not a good scene. And like the writing as a whole, it's not good, and they could have done it so much better, and they could have introduced so many other options, like introducing the four dudes from the previous movie, or having his goons stay alive, and those are the four horsemen, and have all the other X-Men kind of work their own other drama out to come together against them. There's so many ways you could have done it better, but the scenes were themselves fine, and that's how you sell tickets. So
Yeah.
and I don't know, I don't know
Also,
what's
when Psylocke came down and cut that car in half, that was a trailer shot. I don't remember any other trailer shots other than that one.
right,
And I'm like, ah, look, the trailer shot, and it's very clearly made just for that scene. And Psylocke gets like no other moment outside of that.
right.
So, yeah.
No,
And
that's
I
true.
don't know. I didn't know that she had such a big fan base.
Who is it? What's her name?
Psylocke.
No, I meant Salak as the character.
You meant the actress?
Yeah,
Olivia Munn.
that's
She's
her. I didn't know if it was her, and I think
yeah.
that's also why she's just not a terrible, but a less than stellar actor. Because I remember she wanted to get into acting. Because I remember she got her start in Attack of the Show, and then I remember before this movie came out, talks about her doing Psylocke, and how people were, you know, on the fence. And then I think her performance, yeah, definitely wasn't bad. But and maybe you're right. Maybe she didn't get enough lines, enough screen time, or whatever. But I just don't. I just don't think it was right.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was something wrong with it, and I think that shows. And that sucks because I think she could have been a really good actor. I think, but when you took that line and that part and everything else, it was like that's a. Don't do that. Don't do that as your first thing. But that's also not fair to her because it wasn't even a big role. Essentially, it was
Yeah.
a side character, which is the perfect role to get into. But somehow it became the focal point of like the marketing material, the fans, the everything. I don't know why she became important somehow. But yeah, so
That's
fucking
solid.
yeah, all the
Makes
bad
sense.
guys were bad. Apocalypse was kind of okay.
Yeah.
He was a little melodramatic and not scary.
Yeah.
That was why one thing I think a lot of people hate. Everyone says they hate his character, and I've heard critiques. Oh, he wasn't even impressive. He was like human sized. He's supposed to be big, and I think to that I don't necessarily care
You want a
because you
big
can have a
CG
regular
guy?
size. You can have a regular sized person be commanding. Sorry, what'd you say?
So what do they want? A big CG guy? I don't know.
I don't
Like,
know, right? And that's why I say. So I think that it also could be misplaced anger or misplaced
like
problems.
if something didn't like wasn't good, people can always like go back and just pick at like little things that they're like, this is the reason, this is the reason when they don't know the reason.
Right, right.
Like,
It's like I got to explain this. I'm pissed. It sucked. So I'm gonna blame it on the fact that he was small. He's supposed to be like 8 foot tall. It's
yeah,
like
like if you
okay,
look back at all the stuff that was good in movies that people just overlooked things that were not comic book accurate, it's because the movie was good.
right,
They're not going to nitpick it if it's good.
right. Facts.
But if it was subpar, if it wasn't like it didn't meet like expectations, they're gonna go back and go, this wasn't comic book accurate. That's why it was bad.
Right.
Um,
You need something. You got to point the finger somewhere.
yeah,
And that's the whole.
yes,
That's why we're here, folks. If you guys are watching this and you had this issue and you said, "Oh yeah, he was sucked. He was blah blah," blah. The problem was not with his size. The problem was with his demeanor and his action. I think his what he did on screen. And it's like, well, he had my first defense of that is he had all these moments where he did particle jutsu and just fucking put people in walls and rewrote, the
yeah, when he
universe.
dissipated people, why couldn't he just do that to the X-Men?
I don't know, and that's why I say.
Like,
So that's also the problem too. Is they didn't express his character properly. They
yeah,
didn't show his power in an exciting or impactful way. Meaning that yeah, he disintegrated people. That's not exciting or impactful for the viewer. That doesn't convey strength very well. It conveys power, but not this sort of stereotypical, archetypical, whatever the fuck metaphysical you want to call it, strength. It doesn't portray psychologically to the viewer strength. You just or like when he put that guy into a wall. He touched him and just slowly pushed him into a wall. That's not going to be as impactful for the viewer as like Hulk breaks a fucking wall down or smashes a building. That shit's cool, it's exciting, it's powerful, you can tell, it's very visually appealing to some. Oh, this is very strong. Or like when Magneto lifted the fucking stadium and moved that stadium over in number 2. That
yeah,
shit was really fucking impactful. It's like, holy shit. It's good. But he didn't do that. And then you look at his demeanor. His demeanor was super soft. Like, and when they tried to make him serious, it was not delivered very well. The actor didn't do a good job. Like when he had those lines, I think it was after he did like the whole TV thing. He touched the screen of a TV and then learned everything about humanity. That was a little weird for me, especially because he was watching things that weren't on TV. I'm cool with that if the news was on or something was on, or for example, if he touched a library or like if he touched something. Like give him something that has information in it. Cool. I don't care. He MacGuffined his way into knowing everything about everything in the last ever. Sure. But make it an actual archive of things. It was a random like sitcom or something making allegories to Greek mythology about power and gods and things like that. That was the whole point of that show being on, my understanding. But it had nothing to do with history, or the news wasn't even on. So then he touches it and he watches a news story that I don't think was playing like canonically. I think they showed it playing before or at a different
yeah.
time frame. So where did that come from? How did you turn a news story on that wasn't being broadcast? That's not how broadcast works. And I know I'm nitpicking here, and I don't normally agree with this tactic, but
Yeah.
I think you could have done this any other way. I'm cool with he touches something, becomes a super genius, but let him touch something that it makes some sort of sense, right? Let him touch something that's connected to something somewhere that gives him this information. And I guess you could contrive it. Well, there was a library database connected somewhere to the network on the internet, but that wasn't the internet either. Like, give him a computer. Fuck, I don't know, like
It was the
something.
80s again.
Yeah, they
So,
didn't. They didn't have it. So yeah, it's
oh
hard,
no,
man.
wait, hold on. I already lost where we're at. 60s, 70s, 80s. Okay, it was 80s. Yep. All right.
Right.
We're good.
So, but he also we don't know the limits of his powers, right? So you've already established he can have infinite amounts of powers.
Yeah.
Give him like eye powers that he can see through or into things or something. So let him sit there and meditate for a minute as he looks into a library. You know what I mean? And then do some sort of montage where like the book pages flap or something, and then he like summons all of the books out of a library or something. And then just fucking absorbs them into his brain and glows. I don't fucking know. You could have done so many other things that would have been close enough to believable that I would have gave it a pass, and I would have never even done this tactic of dissecting how he did that. But the presentation of it even made me say, you could have done better, and I ignore all that shit normally. So I think that definitely was a little contrived. But when he gave his delivery after that, he'd be like, what did he say? I wish I had the lines, man. I watched it so recently, but memory's trash. He gave some line about we're going to take back the false gods or something or whatever. Every time he gave a line, he sounded like the dude, the Doomsdayer on the corner. Like, not every time, but he gave a lot of lines that I remember just sounding like, oh, like, oh, Talos, I love Talos. And I'm like, it didn't feel right. And he wasn't commanding. When he spoke, he wasn't commanding. He wasn't fucking threatening. Yeah, he could do these things, so technically he was. But he just didn't have presence. There was something wrong. Now, like, even when he killed all those guys, when he disintegrated all those guys in the warehouse, he did it so nonchalantly that that's supposed to show how strong he really is and be fearful. But he did it in the background. Like, he was having a conversation with Magneto, and, like, just casually, all those dudes are dust. And let's keep talking here. It didn't even phase him, so he didn't even express this sort of strength. And it's like, in strength, I think it's better to show, not, or, yes, no, not show and tell. The allegory doesn't make sense. Drop that shit. Because he did show it, but he didn't show it in the right way. Maybe it's tell. I don't know. It's the showing form of telling. Don't do it subtly. I don't know how to explain that.
Just make it blatant.
Yeah,
Like
make
just
it blatant, but show him struggling even. I think a show of power becomes much more impactful when someone struggles to do it. Um, Even if you do it on a grand scale.
I don't know, when somebody just waves their hand and fucking disintegrates people, I feel like that's enough. I'm like, that's a Jesus, I'm not gonna just fucking murder people like that. But if you don't use that power, like, then what was the point of the of doing that scene initially? You made this guy look like super oppressive, but then you don't use that power ever again. Like, can he not use it all the time? Like, what was the point of using it the first time? Because I thought you're using it to show how powerful he was when he's
Right,
not
right,
even that powerful. Um,
right. No, that makes sense.
when it matters. I mean,
Right, no, that's good. That's a good thing. And he was, and so like his power didn't show in the moments when it mattered.
yeah,
And then he also didn't have a commanding personality or a lot of presence when he was on screen. Like there were times when he was standing at the front of the group, and I was like, Magneto stole the scene somehow. No, that's not fair because obviously he has so much history. I'm all about him.
yeah,
I'm a fucking fastbender dick sucker. Like, let's go, dude. So maybe that's not fair for me to say that.
yeah,
But I think, yeah, he just didn't have this commanding thing. I would have liked to see him show more of that. Like, let's say, and this is why I say it would have been cool. And that's not what I said. This is something different. If he does, since we have the new, that was back to like the new Horseman he has.
yeah.
He has the new Horseman. It would have been really kind of cool if like they challenged him, right? Or
Mhm.
somebody said something about it, and he got loud as fuck, and he got angry. If he got loud or angry and like said some shit and like snapped at them, and like fucked them up real bad, it'd be like,
Mhm.
oh shit, don't fuck with this dude. He will vaporize you. You know what I mean? Or let's think like fucking like maybe like Angel talks some shit, and he vaporized his wings, just like on the spot. Just vaporize that fucker's wings and says some shit like I fucking brought you here, I can take you away, like some fucking some parent line. I brought you into this world, I can take you out type shit.
Yeah.
That'd be really fucking cool. Cause that shows you this fucker's got it cocked and loaded. But then you write yourself into a corner because he's too strong and can't be stopped. That's the whole point of his character. He lets the horsemen do the fighting, and in the end, if the horsemen lose, he says, well, you're strong enough. I'm going back to bed. Uh, and his character's hard to write because he's that strong, so I get it. They were kind of in a corner anyway. How do you show strength and have them not use it? But I think there's ways they could have done it a little bit better on screen. Even if you just don't have him use that power and make some random thing. Charles is interfering with his mind because we're connected and that whole shit. Cool. So he can't use his disintegration power. But that still makes the fight pretty bad. Like, and then he dies at the end just very abruptly. I have a shield, or I think he had a shield by the end. He had a little shield, a little bubble or something. And then it's just, they fight it. They shoot a couple things into it, and then Jean stops him, and it just felt bad. He didn't even feel strong in that fight. Cyclops and Storm were shooting him with beams, and he was like fighting them back in a way. It's like you don't fight them back. You kill them. You just wipe them from fucking everything. So it just, yeah, you're right. They didn't display a lot of power. And if you want to limit his power for the fight through some stupid reason, I'm cool with that. All
Charles
storytelling does it. He was
Charles did.
poisoned. He had Charles in his brain. He had this, so he couldn't fight at full strength and make it
Like,
interesting.
have Charles and Jean do it. Like,
Right.
that way it makes more sense. But whatever. What they
Right,
want to
right.
do.
No, I agree. Because then you can have him have the superpower and say, and then people can say, no, if he wouldn't have been fucked up, he would have killed all of them.
And you can
It's
do
like,
the Super Shonen thing that Charles said, but didn't really land for me when he was like, "You know why I will win? Because I'm not alone." Or
right.
like,
And then Jean wins
we didn't
alone.
even play no triumphant music or nothing. It was like I was like, did you really want that line? Because you didn't even amp it up.
Right.
You didn't do nothing that like because music plays a big a role in how
Oh,
like
yes.
how certain cringy lines can seem actually good.
Yes.
So.
The score
They
is
didn't
super
amp that
important.
one up at all. It was kind of cringy. No. The one where he says, "You're in my house now."
I loved it. He was whooping his ass, too. Oh, that was a good scene.
I was a little cringy.
You didn't like it?
I liked it, but I was like, I definitely was like, the second time I heard it, I was like, that's a little cringy.
Oh, no,
But
I
the
love
first
how
time I
cringy
heard
it
it, I was
was.
like, oh, I was about it. But the
I,
second time, I was like, that's a little cringy.
I love how cringy it was because it was Charles. That's what made it so cool. The suspension of disbelief that Charles is a badass all of a sudden, I love it. Because it almost plays on his insecurities as a person, too, after losing his legs and everything else.
Yeah.
I can fucking destroy you. I'm super strong, I can walk, I can talk, I'm bigger than you, I'll fucking whoop your ass and punch you around. It probably was, and think about it. He doesn't do that on a regular basis. This might be the first time that he sort of astro projected into a mind and fought or
Yeah,
did physical like things.
yeah,
The amount of strength he probably felt in that moment was overflowing. So I love it. I
maybe.
love how fucking cheesy and terrible that line was. He
It
felt
was
it.
funny that I did laugh the second time. Um,
Um, but yeah, no, I think it was good. But it was cheesy. So I'll give you that. It was a little cheesy. And then when he just got up and started beating his ass, I was like, yeah, Charles, what did you expect? Like,
this band has been alive for 13,000 years.
right? You think he doesn't have a strong mind? Like
Oh
at
man.
this point, now I do think it sucked though because he did just kind of beat the shit out of Charles after that.
Yeah.
I liked it. I
Walk
would
the
have liked
floor
it
with
that
him.
he fought back. I expected it to be a duel, but it wasn't. It was as if like
Yeah.
he wasn't trying. Like he literally, it's
Like
like
if
he
they're
let
both
Charles.
both just like smacking the fuck out of each other, and then Charles was all bloody and he's about to pass out, and then that's when Gene showed up. But it was more of a fucking wash.
Right. It ruined the
Yeah,
tension.
yeah,
Like once he started losing completely, I'm like, God damn it, Gene, hurry up. And then, but that's also what made that scene kind of good though. Every bad thing in these movies, the last couple, is not four. Fuck that. But in that one especially, a lot of the bad things were supplemented by good things, and that's why it's hard to critique this movie as so harshly. Like what I mentioned earlier, all the Magneto stuff, it was kind of contrived and kind of bad and kind of rehashy, but it was all done
Mhm.
so fucking good. Goddamn, the Storm thing and all the Horsemen, it was kind of stupid and contrived, but some of those scenes were pretty good. This whole getting fucking washed was stupid, but it put more pressure on Jean, and like I'm fucking dying. Like you're not here to help, you're here to save me. Like that made more pressure on her, and it made her choice more impactful to not do that. If we think
yeah,
Charles even stands a chance, Jean thinks he stands a chance, and she's gonna not join the fight.
yeah.
But I think you could have done it a little bit better. It didn't have to be that one-sided. And actually, no, take it back, take it back, scratch everything. They just did this poorly because she could have seen he needed help, and then he could have asked for help, but then she didn't give it to him because she was nervous, and then he starts losing. But then she's like, "No, you got it. I can't." And then he just gets progressively more bus ass,
Yeah.
and then eventually she does it. So no, I'm okay with the Charles being the damsel in distress in a
I'm
way.
fine. No, that's what I meant. Though, is just like that. It was getting close. It was like a lot closer than it was. Than it just a complete wash from the beginning.
Right.
And then just have him like, oh, he's about to lose, and then she shows up. Uh, but that's all I meant. But yeah, yeah.
Hold on, sorry. That shit was loud.
What else we had to talk about for Apocalypse?
Uh, no, I agree.
We
I
went
think
over
that's
all the horsemen.
yeah. That's pretty. We're wrapping
Magneto.
up now. I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
Beast do anything?
Beast. No? Question mark.
uh,
It was all about Magneto for a while.
yeah.
Then it goes all about Apocalypse for a while, and then they did a whole bunch of
I guess he just
scenes.
makes all the tech, right? Raven runs into him. They have the scene where he's showing her the new jet he had made.
Right.
Uh,
That he did that scene. Expect the best, prepare for the worst.
yeah,
Um, she has her little moment where she tells him like, "You guys are still pretending this is gonna work or something." Like you could tell she's more of
yeah,
a bad guy now, or leaning on the bad guys.
yeah.
Um,
But she goes on full good side after this movie.
which is weird, the completely 180.
Yeah. Uh,
But yeah, other
yeah,
than that, I don't think Beast didn't do too much.
yeah. Maybe like Scott. I remember we talked about it last week.
Yeah,
But you
Scott was
got.
fucking cool, dude. I liked him. I liked him at first, man, because
He
he's
went from
not.
like weird dork to just I'm the cool guy now out of nowhere. Like after he got his sunglasses, he just turned into like I'm the cool guy. Yep.
Well,
I
no,
got
I
laser
don't.
beams come out of my eyes.
I don't know. I don't think that happened for me. The way I saw it was that he wanted to be cool, and look at his brother. Jesus fuck, that guy's drips
That
cool.
guy's cool.
Um, that guy literally. He even has the chin and the deep voice. Get the
Yeah,
fuck out of here. His brother
his
is
golden
literally.
arm. Uh,
Yeah, his brother's literally hottest
no,
dude in the
that's
fucking
that's
world.
from that's from Blue Mountain State.
Um,
He's the actor who plays Golden Arm, which is funny.
that's funny.
But,
But yeah, so his brother's literally the hottest dude in the whole world, right? But he wants to be cool. He wants to be that guy. And even like
yeah,
in his first scene when he's in class, I don't think he was a bumbling nerd or nothing.
no,
But I
no, no,
think he wanted to be cool, and that's like the one chick. Like I don't know what did she say to him. He was talking to her about something. No, he was blinking his eyes. He wasn't even like
nah.
doing
He was
nothing.
yeah. His
Um,
eyes felt weird, so he was blinking, and then the one dude, the bully, I guess, was like, "Are you winking at my girl? No,
right,
no,
right.
no." Yeah,
No, I can see what you're saying though. They did say that line. Um, And I don't know what this means. It was previous, but he did have that line. Yeah, I'm gonna whoop your ass or something, or you can't be in the crying already before I whoop your ass or something.
Yeah.
It
So
made
I
it
thought yeah, I thought he was being bullied by that guy anyways,
right, right,
but
right, right. I don't think it
it was definitely
explicitly
open to maybe not, but
right, because he could have just meant in the moment, like
yeah.
you can't cry
Yeah,
before I
yeah.
kick your ass because I'm used to kicking
It
ass.
wasn't it definitely wasn't like confirmed that that's what's happening, but it was kind of implied.
Right. Okay. See, I thought that in that scene it was just a one-off, and he would have wanted to beat that guy's ass. Well, he not even wanted to beat that guy's. He wasn't scared of him. He didn't care about that guy. And that's why I say he wasn't a bumbling nerd or nothing, because he just literally ignored that guy. Like, that guy didn't mean
I
shit to
wouldn't call
him.
him a nerd. I was just like a normal, just average guy.
Oh, I thought you were saying he went from this nerdy wimpy dude who's like,
But he's a wimpy guy. But
I don't think he was, because he wasn't scared of that guy at all. Even when he was talking shit, he just ignored him. Like, he's not scared. He's like, my eyes itch. Fuck you. Like, essentially, he just leaves.
he didn't say fuck you, but yeah.
But that's kind of what
Uh,
he was, I guess, implying by like not giving him any attention. A normal
yeah.
dude would like, you whatever, man, stop. Or like a normal guy would have to respond out of fear. Even when he was beating on the fucking thing, you could say that Scott was under duress because his eyes were burning, so
Yeah.
he wouldn't have responded. But he still ignored the guy. Like he didn't show any signs of fear in the whole scene. And then obviously we know what happened after that. So then, I don't know. I don't think we got enough context. I felt like he was wannabe cool,
Yeah.
but he wasn't, and his brother was always fucking 100 times cooler than him. And you could tell he
Yeah.
was just like not chubby, but he had like a little chubby cheeks, and he was kind of a nerdy looking, not nerdy, but like a
And then big lip boy.
he was just what do you call it? A soft looking guy. He looked a little soft.
Yeah.
So then he goes to this new place, and no one knows him. He can't see anybody. He was in the beginning, and he's like
Yeah.
he thinks he's kind of what am I gonna do? I'm a little nervous. So I think he was a little bit nervous going into that.
Yeah.
But
He just got his powers. He was nervous. I guess.
right, so he doesn't know what to do. So now he can make a new identity for himself because no one knows him.
Yeah.
And then also his brother introduced him to the school. That's a big deal. So he had clout from his brother that I swear to God he just rode on. Because after he pretty much gets involved and it's like gets comfortable, pretty much Havoc gives him the go ahead. He's like, yeah, dude, you're fucking good. You're here now. You're cool. Whatever kind of thing. I don't know what exact lines, but essentially. And then he gets the glasses, and then he starts making some friends, talks to Jean, and it just kind of works. And I think also his confidence comes from Jean, because even if he didn't have the confidence, he thought Jean was like probably super hot and super cool, and she was the one.
Yeah.
So then he goes and talks to her because he was like, oh shit, she's super hot and cool. Let me go talk to her. I made a fool out of myself the first time I seen her. So he tries to be impressive, and he walks up, puts on a stupid macho act that's never gonna work because he's not actually that
You never
cool.
know. You never know.
And then
He
yeah,
might work.
you do never know. And then but he finds out that she's a loser and everyone hates her and they're all scared of her.
Yeah.
And that allows him to fully go confident. I think that allows him to say, "Oh, well, screw that shit." And it's like he knows what that feels like. So it's like he knows to be like your brother's super hot and everyone likes him and you're not that strong or you're not whatever. So then like he can now do that for her and put on this air. But then he also has fucking laser vision that everyone's scared of, and he probably thinks, yeah, I could probably just vaporize them if I needed to. So it was a double Nintendo on his confidence boost. Is that one, he was impressing Jean, trying to make her feel comfortable as well, and then the fact that he has fucking infinite death laser beams out of his eyes kind of helps with confidence. And then he made actual friends though with weaker people. You could argue, and if you look at his friend group when he was hanging out with Nightcrawler and them, they looked kind of like weaker people. They weren't Wolverines or fucking
Most of them were teenagers. They're younger kids. They're smaller.
well, no, but I say weaker, I mean like in teenage, there's like 14, 15-year-olds who are just fucking like douchebags or very strong-willed or very strong mentally, physically. Yeah. There's the bad bitches, the fucking Scarlet Witches, the fucking the White Queens of the world,
the rogues,
or the rogues. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, there's those kind of females, or males too. But so it's like they didn't have any of that. They were all just like, ha ha ha, we're goofy and fun, and we're not very experienced, and we're not very standoffish, and we're not very assertive, and he was allowed to be that guy, even though he's not that guy. If you would have put all those people around him as like tough motherfuckers, like Wolverines and rogues and bad motherfuckers, he would have broken like a twig. I don't think he would have felt confident to build himself into the Cyclops we know later on.
Yeah.
It was a fake it till you make it, and the people surrounding him allowed him to come out of his shell and become that guy. If you think of it as like a food chain, he was the strongest, coolest, toughest out of the nerds and the losers. And then he moves his way up as he gets older, obviously because he becomes, one, physically stronger, and then two, becomes more confident because he was leading them. And he grows. He grows a lot. And I think overall that's why I liked his character, and he was one of the only redeeming parts of 4
Really? Okay.
because he grew a lot in that movie, and he kind of calmed down a lot, and he became more like protective of people. And obviously, yeah, Gene, but it started off as like he's a cool teenage guy, like, yeah, Gene, you want to have a drink or something, like. But then by the end of it, he has to bust in and save her from a fucking galactic level threat, and he's fighting bad guys in the streets, and they're getting arrested and shit, and all hell broke loose. And you look at when he comes in the fucking thing, like before Jean leaves the house when she's stealing the powers,
Yeah.
he busts down the wall. Jean, that fucker's serious. That was the Scott we know. Also, he had no problem shooting a motherfucker. He didn't want to at first, like when when he was shooting his beams.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
he was.
think they finally fixed his power in the fourth one. It's not a fucking laser beam, it's a fucking concussive blast.
Yeah,
Because I think the first two Havoc, yeah, first three Havoc and fucking Cyclops' power just burned everything they hit.
right,
Uh, no, Havoc hit somebody at one point and it just knocked him out. But I don't know.
right.
I don't remember. I think it was in the
Inconclusive.
camp. It was in the camp when we were talking about the guys who looked like they were the hinting the four horsemen.
Yes,
Yeah, I think he knocked somebody out with his power there, not actually fucking murder someone.
right.
Yeah,
But yeah, no. So like, I think that it was really well done in that sense because, like, for example, when he shot that shit off the mirror, it
yeah,
was like boom, and he shot that fucker off the mirror. He knocked that fucker out, and he didn't
yeah,
hesitate. Like there was no more schoolboy nothing. He was like, "Oh fuck that! I'm going to save Jean." But in the beginning of the fight, he was a little bit less aggressive. I was like, "Why the fuck didn't you just take these people out already?" But I don't think he was ready to do that. I don't think he'd been in a combat situation until that point. Um,
he'd been leader of the X-Men for 10 years. I think he fought some people.
no, this is 6 months after. I don't give a fuck. That's my headcanon. This shit is 6 months after.
That's 10 years later.
It's 6 months after.
That's 10 years
Even
later.
the narrative tells itself like it's 6 months later.
It's 10 months. It's 10 months. 10 years later.
Yeah, 10 months, sure.
10 years later.
Fuck. The narrative plays out like that too. Because yeah, I don't believe that, and that's one of the things. That's yeah, it's nonsensical if you look at it 10 years later that he would literally act and grow like that in the span of that movie, and hasn't grown at all since the previous movie. Not a fucking chance. The only one who's canonically makes sense 10 years later is fucking Magneto. Because he would have had 10 years to build a community and build a family
Yeah,
and build a people.
definitely.
So his made a lot of sense, even though he didn't need to be in the movie at all. So, like,
Brotherhood
sure.
of Mutants is not a place; it's a people.
Hell yeah. So, yeah, he definitely didn't need to be that shit. So we're done with 3, I think. We're moving into 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck. It was awful. Everything about it was awful. The bad guys were awful.
Except for Cyclops, apparently.
Yeah, no, it's like not everything was awful, to be honest. Cyclops was great. Magneto was fucking phenomenal, but that's just you can't do him wrong. Like it's just like the actor himself and just Magneto as a character is just so fucking good that they just literally squeezed the last drop. He said he would never do movies after that, and I can see why.
With Fassbender?
Yeah, he said after that he didn't want to do any more fucking superhero movies or maybe movies in general. And I could see why because it was such a fucking. He poured his heart out, dude. And I heard one review about, I think it was that movie, or like the last two. It was about Apocalypse in that one. And the guy was talking about it. He was like, man, Fassbender gave everything he could for this shit. And he poured every drop of soul he had into these movies just to have it pay off and be super shitty. He was like, I feel bad for him. And I was like, damn it, maybe that's why he quit. Maybe that's why he didn't want to do shit later. But yeah, I don't know. I think, fuck, who else was good? Charles was fucking awful. I didn't like Charles at all, dude. I thought he was awful.
Yeah.
His relationship with all the other people was also awful. His relationship that flipped on his fucking head with Mystique and with Beast, awful. It just completely flipped. Now, the scenes were so well acted. When he's sitting in there and he was talking, he was having a drink or something, and he was like, why can't you fucking do it? Why can't you take accountability for what the fuck you've done? Type shit. And like slams the table. And then Charles fucking tears up a little bit. He was like, sorry for not being fucking pissed off or something about losing my best friend who I've known my entire fucking life or something since we were children or some shit. Sorry about this and this. And I was like, oh, God. Woo. That shit was good, dude. That whole fucking scene was phenomenal. But that was because the actors and they fucking sold it. But that scene was contrived as fuck and didn't need to be there to begin with. So it's like every time the movie has something good, it's just fucking bad. because him and Beast wouldn't have had that issue. And this goes to the biggest, hugest, most overarching fucking problem I have with this movie that I never knew I had with this movie. And this is why I like to watch a movie once, then go through and look at material on it. Because there's things I don't know that I don't know about myself, and that's why I try not to come in here blind. Because the idea is that you can refine yourself and learn from a lot of people, and if you're going to be a dude who speaks on the internet, well, you should at least be knowledgeable and have other opinions going into it. He mentions the one video I watched about the fact that how terrible Jean's character and her relationship to other people for the acts that she commits is, because she quite literally almost goes unconscious, kills somebody by accident because she's overflowing with alien powers she can't control. An accident happens, and then as soon as an accident that's blatantly an accident that everyone sees as an accident, after Jean openly says, "Get away from me, I might hurt you, I don't want to hurt you," then they don't get away from her, accident happens, and they turn around, "Jean's a murderer! A murderer! She killed her in cold blood!" And I'm
Yeah,
like,
she was dumb.
Jesus fuck, dude, no, number one, no she didn't, but then the worst part is then they turn around, "Charles, you're a murderer!" What? What? Where the fuck did that come from? Number one, Jean's not, but number two, where the fuck do you even put Charles into that shit? It's just contrived as fuck. I'm like, no, it doesn't even make any fucking sense. And not even,
I mean, shit, he
especially not
almost
in
murdered
this one.
Charles on accident. Like I think he'd be able to fucking sympathize with fucking empathize. Yeah, empathize with Jean over that. That he almost killed his best friend, and she
Right,
just killed her mentor accidentally with her powers.
right,
Oh.
nothing. It's just, yeah, it's terrible. And I think one thing that also makes it worse is the fucking Charles plotline makes it even worse is the fact that he didn't even hide anything from her. In number three, original three, in original three they literally had a situation where she developed a split personality issue, and this split personality was going ape shit and was fucking shit up, and it was
Yeah.
uncontrollable, and Jean needed help with it. So he helped her control it. I would imagine from her own free will. She said, "Please get this out of here. Remove this. I can't control it." So then he helped her control it. Was that a good idea? Who knows? Definitely blew up in his face. But
Yep.
it was an entire personality. It was an entire fucking thing.
Yeah.
All he did was stop her from remembering she killed her mom. That was it. Well, and the fact that her dad hated her. Um,
Yeah,
but
she
that was
saw
it.
that. Yeah.
It wasn't nothing else. Like, is it traumatic? Yes. Does he have every right and every reason to stop that from being in her mind? Also, I think yes. It's not even malicious. It's not even and that's why I say it's just done poorly. Because even when Wolverine was talking about the situation with his memories and his shit, Charles at least could have a gray area. You know what I mean? You do
Yeah.
have a gray area where you probably could have at least talked to the Phoenix. You could have at least tried to make her a part of her psyche and not just hide her in a fucking cage forever like she's going away. Sure, I agree with that. Charles may have fucked that one up. I don't think he even had. He had very. I'll give you, if there is a gray area, it's a very small gray area, on the sense that her parents hated her. She killed her mom, and she was abandoned as a child, and he wanted to be a new family for her. And you don't give a fucking 6 or 7 year old that kind of trauma. Take it from them. They
Yeah.
don't need it. Like, and the only gray area I think you could stand on is to say, oh well, you need it to become a better, more diverse character, because if you look at any good character, they have these dark backstories and they grow from them. It's like, yeah, but you don't need that as a human being. Go tell a motherfucker who was sexually abused as a child, you need that to make you who you are today. No. I promise if they could go and erase that shit, they would have, because it fucked them up for most of their life.
Yeah.
So I don't agree. I think he's objectively in the right for doing that. Number one. And then number two, when she finds it out, it didn't matter. That wasn't even the reason she was killing people. It had already been established that she just fucking has episodes where the power takes over her body and fucking blows up.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I just don't agree. No, I guess technically it took over her body and blew up because she
Mhm.
had a bad memory and it made her turbulent. Maybe because when she was at the party, she had like a weird flashback thing, but it wasn't
No.
clear. It wasn't
I
a
mean,
clear flashback. It
was
wasn't
it
like,
it was like what was that? A solar flare like triggered something, and it either unlocked part of her memories or something.
yeah, they said
I
it
don't
unlocked
remember.
a piece of her memory,
Okay.
which is cool. You unlocked it, but it didn't. It wasn't the problem. I don't think. And if it was, it
She
was
was
super.
already like that before the memory was gone, or before the memory was erased from her,
Right,
or just locked away.
Right.
She already couldn't control herself.
Right. So it's just like I don't believe it. And even when she had those nightmares and it was unclear. She was having nightmares, but it was uncontrollable power that was the biggest issue. But then there was like a tiny glimpse of like a man. And then she was like, I think I can sense something. I sense I have a father or some shit.
She said
But it was like,
her father isn't dead or
right.
something.
But it
Because
wasn't like a
she knew her parents. She doesn't remember that she killed her mom.
right, right. So for me, it was like that wasn't even enough. Like you didn't have this turmoil, you didn't have this breakdown, you didn't have this whole mental shit come over you. You just had a memory that you have a father that could be out there or that is out there. You had this gut feeling. There's no pain from that. So like they didn't even establish the pain. That was what made her lose her mind. They did later on with the big explosion, but she already had these mini explosions already. So it was just hard for me to really attach to even that side of the plot line on her end, not
Yeah.
even just the fact that Charles's side was objectively correct. I don't know. It's hard to really get along any of that plot. The shit's fucking terrible all the way through. But what else? What else was good? Because that was terrible. All the bad things are gonna come pouring out. So if I try and find good things, the
Oh,
bad things won't.
I can't even think of a good thing I was in that movie.
Oh really? Yeah. You didn't like Cyclops at all?
No,
Dang.
not at
Um,
all.
I'll tell you what I liked.
I thought it was gonna be way more involved in the plot, like I mean, like emotionally and stuff. But he was a little more pushed to the side. He was still there, and he
Right.
still had scenes with Jean, but it was not
Right.
enough
Magneto
for
took all
me.
his screen time.
Yeah,
Magneto,
100%.
Beast, and Mystique took all his screen time.
Well, Mystique
Oh yeah,
wasn't
she
in
died
there
pretty
that
quickly.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, she died early.
But their drama took precedence.
And then the alien plot was
Terrible. Fucking
uh,
terrible.
uh
Dude, you know what though?
there.
You know what I found out? That apparently, and this is why I like reading other material and looking at other review dudes and trying to understand media, is that
Yeah.
apparently I found out that movie was rewritten like twice. So they actually had to change a lot of it. And then I also found out that I don't give any credit to the fucking writer because fuck that guy. And I don't know for sure, and it's hard to say, but the dude who wrote and directed it, he did half of the script for X3, the original trilogy. So like essentially got a second chance at
Doing
writing
Dark
the Dark
Phoenix.
Phoenix. And it's like so you knew all the problems people had from before. You got a second chance. And this is what you gave us? It's crazy because the first one was better. So I'm like, how is the first one better? And I have to wonder if he was the bad half of that script. uh,
Maybe.
and they didn't know that, so they just picked one. And they had a 50-50 shot. You got the good one. Or maybe he had influence from other things, and there's director input. There's a lot of. Well, he was the director of that movie. Doesn't
Maybe
count.
he was trying to, or maybe he was trying to avoid stuff that he did in the other movie, but that was the stuff that was good.
Possibly, yeah. Also, one thing I appreciated about this guy's take on that storyline is the fact that they tried to make it more down to earth. Because apparently one of the things that people didn't like or was less received was the hugeness of the whole story. And like they wanted more people, they wanted more characters, more development, more of the hard hitting shit like we got in First Class.
Yeah.
And less of the big war and the big stuff like that, like in three, original three.
Yeah.
So he wanted to lean away from that, but the problem is Dark Phoenix's story, and according to this guy, and I've never read the Dark Phoenix story, so I don't know, was that he was saying that Dark Phoenix's story is actually grand. It's grandiose. Like she actually goes through and she does kill all the Skrulls on an entire planet or some shit.
hmm
Like it's just fucking wild. And then he mentions not only is it a grandiose story, and that's one of the things that makes it so compelling, but number two, he mentions I think that Jean does have some say so. I think I don't know the story, so that's why I say, but I think he does mention that she has some sort of say so in choosing these powers, and he brought up Buffy the Vampire Slayer as an example. In one season, some character goes bad, but they had spent the entire fucking build up of that season ignoring the bad things, knowing the dangers of the bad things, and teaching themselves away from it. And then something crazy happens, and then they fall into it on purpose, and they start doing bad shit on purpose, essentially. And then they get caught up in it, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. And he was like, that's a compelling story, and I have to agree. Nothing was compelling about Jean. She didn't have a say-so in any of this. At least in X3, there was, like, kind of a say-so. It was still Jean's darker half, but you
She
could
was
try and...
kind of, yeah, she was kind of holding a little bit of wheel, but then she like onto the wheel, but then she'd let go whenever she'd get really mad.
Right, and that's
Uh,
what I don't like about Jean in X3 original, was the fact that... I guess I can call it X3, because it was called X3, I think.
I think it was called X3 Last Man or X-Men Last Stand.
Last Stand. Okay, never mind. Because I'm trying to find a way to differentiate the original and the second trilogy. But I think in that one, in the end, she was like, she snapped into it. She was like, "Kill me, please." I
Yeah.
didn't like that. That was what ruined the character at the end of it for me. Because up until that point, there was a belief that this was still Jean. Like, she is still making these choices. Um, but I say that belief. That was a very small. I'm pushing it. It was maybe a 10-20% chance that you thought Jean had a handle on what the fuck was going on there. But
Maybe a little bit.
I don't know. I would have liked it if I saw more Jean on board. But it was more ambiguous. It was at least a little ambiguous that maybe Jean's in there and she wants this in a way. Because she always wanted to fuck Wolverine. So then she immediately does it. That's one of the first things she tries to do when she wakes up.
She kills Scott. Make sure it gets him out the way.
Right. I'm serious. I don't know.
Why
I have
she
to
kills-
wonder
I don't know. I'll leave it alone.
if she had those desires, right? If maybe she didn't want to be with Scott, but she's a good woman. She doesn't know how to handle that. She doesn't know that because she knows that her and Scott are figureheads of the X-Men. And if their relationship goes south, that's not good for the team. And I have to wonder if she had those backlog of desires and shit that she had been hiding that Dark Phoenix said, "No, fuck you. We're not together anymore, and I want the Wolverine. Let's go. I want this shit for me." And then she also had like issues with Charles and stuff. And then, you know, now that all that power was becoming free, she'd be like, "Yeah, fuck, I have power now. Why did you hold this from me? Fuck you, Charles." You know what I mean? And then she kind of believes it a little bit. Because she can't see the danger of it, because it's fresh. She hasn't seen it in so many years. She was a kid back then, so it's like she doesn't know why would you have kept this from me? This is fucking great. And then it becomes more devolved. Maybe right. Maybe it only separates at the end when she does kind of have this whole snap back to reality kind of person. But that made it seem like they were completely separate from the beginning in a way, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't know. Hard to say. Anyway, short story long on that tangent. Back to the new Jean. She had no agency at all in what she did, and it made the character super uncompelling, or unbelievable, or I don't know. I don't care. I don't care
Well,
about
they
the
wanted to
ending.
absolve her of all that stuff, so she couldn't be responsible for any of that stuff
Right,
that
which is
she
the
did.
whole basis of everything.
Yeah.
And then on to fuck, we were talking about things we liked. I really fucking loved the scene where he's trying to stop the copter from her in that little tug of war.
Man, that was a really good scene. Holy,
Holy
shit.
shit,
I
dude.
can't hold on much longer. Go.
Nah, that
Oh
shit
my
was
Yo,
fucking
Fassbender,
good.
for real, it's fucking. He acted his fucking heart out in those movies.
Right? No, that's yeah, literally. He just killed it.
He carried those movies on his fucking back.
Oh, yes, he did. He fucking did it, dude. And it's funny because that scene didn't have to be there. The whole scene, everything. And that's why I say they just shoot themselves in the foot and they do this one thing I like.
Like they got Fassbender in there, and I'm kind of happy they did because I got to see somebody I liked in the movie,
Right.
but that scene definitely didn't need to be in the movie. Like he
No.
didn't even need to be in the movie.
Him himself, yeah, not at all.
Yeah, Magneto shouldn't have even been in the movie.
Right. So that just affected the storytelling and made it kind of worse. But then if it wasn't in there, Jesus Christ, how abysmal would that movie have been overall? Oh, so you didn't like the scene with Beast and Charles at the table?
Remind me what happened?
When they was talking to him, when Beast was like sitting at the table, Charles was having a drink alone at the table. And then Beast shows up and he's like, you know, he just says something kind of coy or whatever. And then, Charles responds with like, "We have to do this," or "We have to do something," about like, as if it was about like the state of like humans in the world and everything else. It wasn't about Mystique. And it was after the funeral. And then Beast fucking like kind of loses his shit. He was like, "Well, what about this?" or something. And like pretty much starts to kind of point the blame. And then he was like, Charles responded pretty.
I would say I don't like Beast just flipping on Jean like that fast, just for no reason. I mean, yeah, he loved Mystique and she died, but clearly it was a fucking accident when she killed her.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think he would have turned on Jean that quickly.
Well, no, this was him turning on Charles.
Yeah, but I'm saying like but he
Well,
was
yeah,
turning
but he
on
blamed Charles for Jean,
Charles
which
was,
by extension, yeah.
yeah. So like because of what happened.
That makes
So.
sense. No, you're right. I guess so. The scene itself, the reason for being there is still stupid, and the story doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
But the acting was
It
so
was
damn
acted.
good.
Yeah, the acting was great. The actors are amazing.
Well, that's why I say I like that scene. That's why I say it's a good scene.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good, not a lot, but there's a few really good things in there. Like we talked about the teenage party. The teenage party is
Yes.
super sick. That's a super cool callback to the old ones and a really good part
Yeah.
of the movie. What else?
Mm.
The fights are cool. I don't give a fuck. That final fight with everybody in
Oh
there,
yeah, the choreography was pretty good. Yeah.
that shit
Um,
was really sick, dude. Especially that fucking
I
shot
like the
cyclops
train.
off the
The
mirror.
the train. The train was actually a really good like set piece. I like that
Right,
action scene a lot.
right. I didn't like the goons. Um, I
But
really didn't care for all of the just generic goons
just
they threw at them.
alien goons. I was watching with Keely, and that one was just standing there getting shot. I'm like, oh, so they're immortal. And then he died. I said, why the fuck was he just standing there?
Right.
If he can die, why is he just sitting there taking all those bullet shots?
Well, I thought
Um,
it was funny. They could take regular bullets infinitely, but he shot them with a 50 cal and they died. That was the only consistency was the caliber, because like from the on, like the chopper,
yeah,
all the
the one
bullets
guy
from the
was shooting him
chopper.
with like a AR-15 was shooting him, and he took a bunch of the bullets, healed, and then like five guys shot him instead, and then he died. Uh,
Right. So I think
so
it matters the amount at which you can regenerate or what's gone,
I think so. Yeah.
because all the regular bullets don't leave big enough
But,
holes.
but like if there's a chance that he could die from that, why would he just stand there instead of attacking them? That's what like that one scene was like really
Oh yeah,
weird.
yeah. Well,
He
they
just
probably thought they
stood
were
there.
invincible. But I thought that
Yeah.
because you see, like for example, Magneto fights dudes who were previously laying on the ground in that cart, and that towards the
Go
end of
back
his
and see
fight.
it, but I could recall that I could have swore they were all dying from just
Um,
regular gunfire.
well, I mean, they got shot and they laid on the ground. So just because someone goes, ah, does not mean that they're dead. But I can see why you would think that, though. I mean, I don't even know if I'm correct, right? But it makes sense, right? They get shot by a bunch of bullets, they fall on the ground, they're not moving. Cool, they're dead. Then the next scene in the same train cart,
Like if that was yeah, 'cause if it was the case that they would just lay down, they had to rest a little bit, and then they got up, you'd think that they'd make a scene of that
right,
to create more tension. But the movie was so bad, maybe they didn't think they needed it, and yeah, whatever.
right,
But
because it was the same minecart. Like I remember, like because Magneto's fight happened at the end of the fight,
yeah,
because he was fucking around for a while. But then at the end of that fight, he's fighting goons. And
yeah,
I'm like, you already knocked out these goons, and there wasn't like an excess of bodies on the floor. When he fought his round of goons, there was only six. Like by the time he beat them all, there's like only six on the floor. I'm like, so that can't be a fresh round of six, because you'd have like 12 or 15 bodies on the ground by now. But there wasn't enough bodies at the end of
you
it on the
never
ground.
know. You never know. Hope
So
you
that's
see.
why I made the assumption that they
Yeah,
just got back up, except for the one dude who they
maybe.
tore off his entire torso. That's why I say anybody you saw them tear to fucking pieces, they never came back.
Yeah.
The ones that they fucking ripped in half, essentially, or all the ones that Storm killed with lightning, all the ones that died to like some fucked up shit.
Did Mystique say mutant and proud when she died?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Which is stupid.
No,
Um,
it's the scene. It's the thing that she said during first class to Beast.
right. No, I like that, but it just felt bad in that scene.
No, she said I love you to Beast, I think. But she said mutant and proud to Phoenix right before she died. I don't remember.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't even know their relationship. I don't even think they had a relationship.
She's her mentor.
I don't believe that. But other than that, what else we got in this movie? Good things.
Uh,
We talked about how shit it is on all fronts, but I was gonna find some more good things because it had moments. What else?
eh,
We've been through
I don't
Fassbender and the
recall.
super fucking amazing scenes.
Yeah.
All the cool fight
Him.
scenes.
Yeah.
Fuck. There's got
I
to be
think we went through
something.
them all.
I want
No,
to find one more good thing. There's got to be one
I
more
don't
good
think
thing in
there's any
there.
more good things.
Um.
Was Nightcrawler in this movie? Yeah, he was.
Oh yeah, I didn't like him. He was just kind of an annoying nerd.
Yeah.
Um.
Quicksilver didn't really do anything.
Nope. I thought he had a chance when he was going to fight her, and I thought it was
No,
kind of.
Nightcrawler had that moment where he like was kind of going dark in the train, where he said "fuck it," and then he started stabbing
Ooh,
people with his tail.
no, I love that scene.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, I told you there was
Um,
more good things. Yeah, this shit because I didn't like his character all the way throughout because I thought he was a
part of the
stupid.
train scene. I said the whole train part was second was really good, except for like that one alien being standing there and just taking the
Right,
bullets.
right.
Yeah,
Fair
but
enough. I
yeah,
didn't. I
the
guess
train
I
scene
always
was
like to
all amazing.
pinpoint them.
Yeah,
No, it was because I always thought his character sucked until that. Because he's my favorite dude. If you guys don't know, Nightcrawler's like my favorite fucker ever since
Ew.
the X-Men Evolution. I think it's Evolution, the teenage shit
yeah,
where you had the hologram thing to make him blue hair.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I didn't like him in this movie because I was like, man, fuck, dude, stop making him some stupid like Weasley little shitter. I also don't like how nasty he looks. I have a big problem with that. They've made him look really nasty in the last ever, all of the films.
All
Um,
the live actions.
yeah, and I don't like it. And I'm not saying it's untrue to the character from the comics back in the day or whatever, but it's because I have this image of him from Evolution. So when he turned blue, he was blue and he had the tail and he had all this shit, but he wasn't like grotesque with like 3 fingers and fucking like claws and fangs and shit. I was like, and like all these scars all over his body. I was like, I don't like that version. I like, but then they kept him as a teenage dude. That's what's weird. So like they kept similar things to what I wanted with the whole teenage stuff, but they made him way
Yeah.
too much like a nerdy loser guy. But then they also had him be very grotesque. So I was kind of on the fence and didn't like his character at all. I thought they got all of it wrong. I was like, you didn't do good by the guys who like the grotesque monster. You didn't do good by the guys
I
who like
like
the
the
teenage.
cool scars. I don't know.
Well, the
I've
scars are kind
always
of
been
cool.
I'm a fan of the cool scar things. So
They're cool. I won't say
he
they're
definitely
not.
doesn't look like that in the comics, but it looks cool.
Right.
Uh,
No, they were cool, and I can't say they're bad or not cool. It's just hard for me to like. And he looked a lot better in the first trilogy, I would say, than this newer one. It just looks
yeah.
weird. But anyway, so yeah, I was unhappy with the character. I said they don't do him good as like a cool guy. They don't do him good as the teenage version I like. Then who the fuck is this for? And then in the end, when he goes fucking like, he was like, fuck this, and went super like ape shit. Oh baby, he was stabbing fuckers and jumping. Which, by the
Yeah,
way,
I thought they were hinting at like a future storyline where he's a demon because
mhm.
I think that has happened in the comics at some point. You find out he's actually half demon, half mutant.
Right,
Um,
isn't that where he comes from? He just goes back to
yeah,
his home.
yeah,
Like he just goes home and uses them to like as a shortcut.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's
That's where
cool.
Azazel's his father too, I think, in the comics.
Cool, makes sense. Makes sense why they have those powers. But yeah, no, I thought that was fucking sick when he lost his shit. Side note that he killed all those dudes with the knife hit. That's not gonna
Yeah,
happen. Um, I'm so glad he got his moment, but they fucking pumped these fuckers full of lead and only the 50 cal would stop him. And you stabbed him a couple times. Not a chance. Um, I'll give it to Storm because she at least shocked the fuck out of him, or Magneto because he crushed them, or whatever. But I don't think he's actually killing any of those guys. But I'll allow it for how cool the scene was. I think that's it. Yeah, movie sucks, but there's so much good stuff, man. That's why I think objectively, I want to.
4.5 out of 10.
I'll give it a 5 because I still think it's okay and it's worth a watch. I'll give it objectively a 5. I'll give it 2 ratings. I normally have 1 rating that I kind
Of the prequel quadrilogy, I'd probably rate it the lowest.
of course, it was fucking awful. I think hands down, it was definitely the worst one out of all of those, followed by Apocalypse.
Uh,
Which
yeah, I
Apocalypse was
agree.
still a 5. So they're both 5s, but they're varying degrees of 5s.
Apocalypse, I think I'd give it a 5.
Because I think Apocalypse, I give them both a 5 because I think, and this is why I say I have to give 2 ratings on these. I can't judge them objectively as a whole because as a whole, the movie by itself, Dark Phoenix, it's a 5. You can watch it and enjoy it. It's nothing wrong with it. The scenes, like all these individual scenes, how good the scenes were when you saw them, is going to keep you in the movie. You can finish the movie and not feel like you wasted your time. You'll finish the movie and be like, yeah, that was cool. That was worth a watch. I don't think I'd go back, but it was worth a watch the first time. So I have to give it a 5. But in terms of everything else the fucking movies had ever put into ever, all of it, it's like a fucking 3. The movie's awful. Because of all the things we talked about tonight, all the things that it
Yeah.
just ignores from the previous shit, all the things it just does worse, all like even something as simple as Mystique's makeup and how much worse it looked by that time. Just everything, just how fucking terrible everything was in comparison to what we expected from the storytelling previously and all the things they could have done. And then I think that's also why Apocalypse, again, I'll give it a 5. I think because if you watch it by itself, it's entertaining enough. It's a fine movie. You could watch it once and sure. But I think personally, it's compared to the previous shit and how much better they could have done it. It's not it's not atrocious, but I'd give it maybe a little. No, it's still a 5 because it didn't ruin anything. Saying something could have been done better is the reason it got a 5. Because yeah, I would have liked it if they did this, this, and this. They could have done this story. They could have had Magneto be on this side. They could have kept the original 4 Horsemen. Everything I mentioned tonight would have brought that movie up in value. And that's the reason it went from a natural 10 on down to a 5, because of the execution and how they did kind of step on the toes of some previous stuff, but not too much. And then, overall what they could have done better with what they did in that movie. But number 4 just fucking throws so much shit out the window. It's just bad on all fronts, and those things I think take away a sort of pseudo score that you can't judge that movie for in a way. Objectively, that single standalone movie, but as
Yeah.
a series and everything that came before it, it's like a fucking 3.5, maybe 3, yeah, because it's just how much it shits on everything previously. But those are intangibles in that movie by itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So that gets 2 ratings from me. But yeah, I think that's pretty much covered the shit. Good shit.
4.5 for Dark Phoenix, 5 for Apocalypse,
Right.
maybe 5.5.
Right.
No, I'll give it a 5. Days of Future Past,
It's boring.
I don't know, it's got Wolverine in it.
I'll give it a 6.5 just because it's good. There's
Ooh, that's
nothing
too
wrong
much
with
for
it.
me. I'll give it a 6, maybe 5.9.
Right. Because there's nothing wrong with the movie.
No, yeah.
But objectively, like, oh, it was just this was so glaringly bad. But it's like I remember them. It's kind of boring.
There's so many extra X-Men that don't do anything contribute. Like, yeah, they're all fodder. They all get smacked around. They all like stop the Sentinels from coming in and killing all of them. You could say that they have a role, but
No, that timeline doesn't exist. We all knew it was a waste anyway.
And so yeah, I'd give it a 5.9.
Right.
And then First Class is like an 8. I might
course.
bump it to an 8.5. I have to think about it.
Shit, you gotta convince me. 8.5. Let's go.
Yeah, you probably give it a 10.
No, I won't give it a 10, but I'll give it 8.5 because I can't think of. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't know. I've changed my rating system. There were some things I didn't like. I won't give it a 10 because I can think of a couple things, like a couple side characters.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 9. You're right. I'll give it a 9. I have to I have to go back and read.
I'll give it an 8, maybe an 8.5.
Right, just because of the fact that
I'll settle at 8.3. There we go. That's a good. Yeah.
Right, because my general rating is it starts out everything's a 10, and what did you do wrong? It's hard to find a lot that movie did wrong, so I have to give it at least a 9, I would say. But there are some things I'm like, it was okay, or blah blah blah, or didn't like too much. But overall, yeah, definitely.
That was good. That was good. 3 hours.
Right. Pretty good.
Hope
shit.
you all like, subscribe, give us. We do all the things. We're brand new. We need the help. All the help we can get.
That's funny.
Signing off.
Yeah, dude. Night, guys. Night for everyone
Alright.
who's watching, man. Fucking love you, dudes, as always. And just be objective, have fun. You know the messages I always give. You know the good shit. Don't be a dick. Just go watch stuff and try and make your own opinions too. And watch movies. If any of you stupid fucks listen or watch our shit before you've seen a movie we're talking about, fuck you. You're the problem. Because even if we teach you to be objective, you're just gonna go spout our ideas. You're gonna go say, "Oh yeah, I heard from Trey that movie was really good. He said this and this." Go fucking watch it. You can disagree with me. Maybe you think I'm crazy. That's the whole point.
I always think you're crazy.
Yes, that's why you're here. Because if I didn't have you, I'd just say wild shit and people would believe it.
All right. Peace.
All right, see you guys.